Chapter 946. Zetian Palace, Side Hall, Imperial Army Meeting Room. When Wei Chou talked about confiscating 20 magic crystal cannons from the Imperial Army, everyone burst into laughter. Zhang Wei said casually, as expected of the Minister of War. "You're so confident even when you're robbing." "That's great." Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and asked, "Have you found out where these magic crystal cannons came from? Could it be that other people have also mastered the technology of casting magic crystal cannons other than the Imperial Armament Department?" "That's not the case." Wei Chou answered, "The serial number of the Ministry of War is engraved at the bottom of these magic crystal cannons. If I'm not mistaken, they should have been lost in the Battle of Lingdong Province. Later on, the Tianji Empire's army didn't have time to take them away, so they fell into the hands of the people. As for how the Imperial Army got them, they probably bought them from those merchants or mercenaries. It seems like the Imperial Army is really racking their brains for armaments." Feng Jixing sighed and said, "Since Zhuang Yan could think of this method to get armaments, he must have thought of other ways. They're still being polite to the Ministry of War for now, but once they have enough armaments and have a solid trump card, I'm afraid that won't be the case anymore." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "After all, there are too many people in the Imperial Army. Once they're equipped with magic crystal cannons, it'll be a big deal. Wei Chou, Zhang Wei, you guys have to send people to investigate carefully. Don't let your guard down." "Yes, Lin General." The few of them cupped their fists together. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said, "Zhuang Yan and Su Changjing are both smart people. They'll definitely fight against the Imperial Army in other ways. As for what they're best at, it should be stirring up the hearts of the people and using the Constitution. From today onwards, everyone in the Imperial Army must learn the Constitution and restrain their words and actions. No one can be caught by the Imperial Army. Do you all understand?" "Yes. Especially you, Zhang Wei." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "According to the Constitution, there is a military regulation that states that soldiers are not allowed to have more than 3 concubines and are not allowed to play around with women. But you, Zhang Wei, have been in and out of the red light alley. Once you are caught, I'm afraid that no one will be able to protect you. So you have to restrain yourself, understand?" Zhang Wei knelt on one knee. "Yes, Lin General. I understand. I will restrain myself." After following Feng Jixing for so many years, Zhang Wei's temper had indeed been restrained quite a bit. Based on his temper in the past, he would probably have gone to the Imperial Parliament with a knife and started a massacre. The empire was won by Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Tang Xiaoxi together. Anyone who dared to bully them would be making an enemy out of Zhang Wei. At least, that was what he thought. Lin Muyu sat on the commander's seat and flipped through the military order book in front of her. "Winter is coming. How are the preparations for our military supplies?" "Don't worry, Lin General." In the crowd, Ding Shi cupped his hands and said, "Her Highness has ordered me to take charge of the military supplies department. I have already made arrangements with the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Revenue. Everyone in the Longdan Army camp, the Imperial Army, and the exiled army will have a set of cotton clothes ready in half a month. The weather will be cold in half a month and they will come in handy." "Well, thank you, General Ding Shi." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "By the way, what about the provisions for the warhorses? Also, have the people we sent to the northern desert to buy warhorses returned?" Ding Shi said, "The provisions have been prepared. There are more than 40 forage yards in Lanyan City, enough for our 100,000 warhorses to survive the whole winter. In addition, the people who went to the northern desert have come back quickly. Since the death of the northern desert wolf lord Mao Dun, more than a dozen tribes have lost their leaders. However, we still have many warhorses." Our envoy met with their tribal leaders and reached an agreement. They are willing to sell us 150,000 warhorses at a price of about 150 Jin Hun coins each. So we need to prepare nearly 30 million Jin Hun coins. 30 million? Does the Ministry of Revenue have that? The Ministry of Revenue is a little tight. We need to move some Jin Hun coins from other places. Lin Muyu frowned and turned to look at Qin Yin. She said, Xiao Yin, do you have money? Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, Zetian Palace is poor too. Even if we cut back on expenditure, we still don't have that much money. There are about 10 million Jin Hun coins in the treasury of the palace. You can have it all. You have to figure out a way to get the rest. Lin Muyu turned to the other side. Xiao Shi, does the Seven Seas Palace have money? No. Tang Xiaoxi blinked. During the last expedition to Cangnan Province, the treasury of the Seven Seas Province was almost used up. Now there's a shortage of supplies. After Xiao Yin returned, she pardoned the people and reduced taxes. So now, all the places are very poor. It seems that the 11 years of war have really made the empire poor. The dignified Lanyan city can't even produce tens of millions of Jin Hun coins. Yes, it has always been like this. Feng Jixing said, why don't you ask Jin Xiaotang? The Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce should still be rich. These 150,000 warhorses are very important to us. The future war will still be the battlefield of the cavalry. The magic crystal cannons are too clumsy and can only be used for defense. The real offensive war will still rely on the cavalry and the rapid charge of the magic crystal crossbows. We can't do without warhorses. Yes, I will ask. But it won't be too ideal. The big families in Lanyan City are also very poor now. The business of the Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce is not as good as before. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips. The Grand Qin Empire has thousands of years of savings. Where did all the money go? It's all on the steel walls and in the wilderness of the battlefield. Feng Jixing sighed. At this time, Ding Shi said, I think there are some people who are very rich. Who? Lin Muyu asked. Take Zhuang Yan as an example. He's the governor of Sunset City, and the Zhuang family he belongs to is a business tycoon in the Swift White Province. Ever since the demons were repelled, Sunset City has been living a peaceful life. Even the war between the Darkstone Empire and the Tianji Empire didn't reach Sunset City. Therefore, Zhuang Yan is very rich. It can be seen from the fact that he could gather nearly 60,000 troops. Without money and military provisions, who would follow him? Qin Yin's lips curled up slightly. Lord Ding Shi, you mean, we should slaughter the big families? Yes. Ding Shi said, since Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others can establish a parliament with great fanfare to reduce their power, then why should we be polite? We can come up with all sorts of excuses to reduce the properties and fiefs of the feudal vassals. For example, Zhuang Yan is still the governor of Xiang City, but Her Highness the Empress has the power to demote him. Feng Jixing's eyes lit up. General Ding Shi means to remove the positions of the feudal vassals and their fiefs? Yes. Ding Shi took a deep breath. Her Highness can select a group of young talents from the imperial capital to take up posts in various places. It's called the Decree of the Emperor, but in fact, it's just to replace the feudal vassals' positions in their fiefs and make them lose their roots. If these feudal vassals don't want to be replaced, they need to hand over a certain amount of property to reject the decree of the emperor. This way, they can legitimately confiscate the local financial resources. Good. Lin Muyu clapped her hands and smiled. Lord Ding Shi's plan is not bad. It's feasible. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, what do you think? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi nodded in unison. I agree. Lin Muyu looked at Shengguan Jingyue and said, then I'll have to ask Lady Attendant Shengguan to draft up the decree of the emperor as soon as possible. Send it directly to the feudal vassals. If they don't show any signs within 7 days, take away their fiefs. Yes, Lin General. Shengguan Jingyue left happily. Lin Muyu rubbed her palms together. This way, we have the money to buy war horses. Wei Chou said, Lin General, Shenhozing Yifan sent a letter from Dongshuang City. He learned that the Celestial Empire of the Celestial Pole continent has passed through the Forest of No Return and has started a war with the Tianji Empire's Zhangqing army. Qin Yu has started a war with Zhangqing? Lin Muyu was stunned and said happily, "This is a good thing. This is a good thing. This way, the celestial pole continent will not be a threat to us for at least half a year. This is great." He was complacent and felt that there was no room for him to sit on the marshal's seat. He then said, "Oh right, how is the reconstruction of the Empire's navy going?" Beilitsang cupped his fists. Reporting to the marshal, several large shipyards are short of money, so the construction of the ships is very slow. Currently, there are only about 100 ships. Moreover, the Navy's recruits still need to be trained, so it is impossible for them to form a fighting force in a short period of time. Money. We still need money. Lin Muyu held her forehead and couldn't help but feel a headache. Are you alright?" Feng Jixing asked. "I'm fine." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Everyone here is the backbone of the Empire. Think of a way to get money. Without money, we won't be able to build more ships. Without ships, we won't be able to train our navy. Without the navy, our eastern sea will still be empty. We won't have our own border and can only be attacked. Without warships, we won't be able to gather an army for an expedition." Eastward expedition. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. "Yes, eastward expedition." Lin Muyu looked at her and said with a smile, "Xiaoxi, don't you think we should completely destroy the celestial pole continent?" "I'm afraid this is a little difficult." Ding Shi sighed and said with a smile, "I know it's difficult, but we have to prepare in advance." Lin Muyu twirled the pen in her hand. She pondered and said, "It's not that I want to be militaristic, but if our Qin Empire doesn't be militaristic, we will definitely be destroyed. Even if I have to let down the future generations, I must fight on." Qin Yin was slightly moved and said softly, "I will do my best to support you." Tang Xiaoxi nodded. "Me too." All the generals were stunned, then they cupped their fists and said, "We will definitely follow the marshal. Wherever the soldiers point, we will never retreat." Lin Muyu smiled happily. The people in front of her were the real pillars of the empire. It was this group of people who defeated strong enemies time and time again: the Iha Kingdom, the Demon Race, the Tianji Empire, and the Blackstone Empire. They were the real treasures of the empire. History would always remember their names and their glorious achievements. Chapter 947. What Bullsh *T Order of the Emperor. In a side hall, Zhuang Yan's hand trembled as he held on to the Order of the Emperor. Veins popped up on his face. This is like taking drastic measures. It sounds nice to promote talents, but in the end, it's to weaken the feudal lord's power in our fiefs. This must be Lin Muyu's evil plan. As long as we're stripped of our fiefs, we'll be at their mercy. In your dreams. Lu Shiyu's eyelids twitched. "I won't hand over Bai Ling City even if I die." Humph, Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing only know how to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. They've forgotten who rebuilt Bai Ling City all these years. Now that Bai Ling City is prosperous again, they want to get rid of us. Dream on. Su Changjing thought for a while and looked at Qin Kong. He pleaded, "Director, you are Her Highness's uncle. Please say something. Her Highness is destroying our roots." Qin Kong looked at Su Changjing and pleaded with Su Changjing. Qin Lian's eyes dimmed. "Everyone, isn't the last line of the Order of the Emperor written clearly? If you want to reject the Order of the Emperor, the tax that every feudal lord has to pay is also written clearly." This, Zhuang Yan slammed the Order of the Emperor on the table. "The tax that I have to pay is as much as 80 million Jingren coins. Do you really think that my family is a mountain of gold and silver? I don't have that much money." Qin Lian smiled. "Sir Zhuang Yan, if I remember correctly, your fiefs in Xiang City are thousands of hectares. It's not an exaggeration to say that you're a marquis. Moreover, the Zhuang family's businesses are almost all over the White Flash Province and Earthstar Province. You're a big merchant in both North and South Ridge Province. The Zhuang family's net worth is at least 200 million Jingren coins. Now that Her Highness needs money, the empire needs money. As the deacon of the parliament, it's only right for you to bleed. I. The veins on Zhuang Yan's face bulged. Why should the Zhuang family hand over the hard-earned money? Qin Lian stood up shakily with her cane. I'm tired. I'm going back to rest. Director, you. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others all stood up. With the support of Qin Yan, Qin Lian walked to the entrance of the side hall. She slowly turned around to look at the crowd and said, I know that the establishment of the Congress has greatly increased the status and identity of all of you, but in the end, you are still the subjects of the Qin family, the subjects of Her Highness Yin. If the ruler needs money, you should be loyal to the country. This is a transaction, or else, you can forget about Sunset City and Hundred Ridge City. Qin Yin is the empress, and when she wants to take back her power, she will naturally take back your positions. Although I, Qin Lian, am the chief of the Congress, and all of you have helped me, I am also Qin Yin's uncle, the younger brother of her father. Watching Qin Kong's figure leave, Zhuang Yan and the rest felt as if a large rock was pressing down on their hearts. Lin Muyu's move of taking drastic measures is seriously too ruthless. Zhuang Yan said furiously. Yeah. Su Changjing frowned. The group of feudal vassals remained silent. No one knew what to say. However, Qin Kong had already spoken. Other than accepting her fate and paying the money, there seemed to be nothing else to say. After a long time, a feudal vassal suddenly laughed. It was Yang Zhong, the former Marquis of Yu, a noble of Cangnan province, and one of the 10 great deacons of the Congress. Although Yang Zhong did not control as many troops as the other 4 feudal vassals, he was strong in terms of scheming and foresight. This was something that the other 4 feudal vassals could not compare to. Marquis of Yu, what are you laughing at? Zhuang Yan asked. Yang Zhong stroked his beard and said, It's really funny to see all of you frowning. Marquis of Yu. Zhuang Yan's voice became much sterner. Yang Zhong said, Instead of being at a loss here, why not think of a way to counterattack Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing? Counterattack? Su Changjing was stunned. That's right. Counterattack. Yang Zhong's eyes turned cold. He said, Lin Muyu used the token of grace to weaken our power and steal our wealth. In that case, we should use our own methods to cut off Lin Muyu's right-hand man. What do you mean? As far as I know, the siblings, Situ Sen and Situ Shui, have a mansion in Lanyan City that is as large as 400 mu. Although the front yard is not too big, there are many livestock in the backyard to feed the giant dragons and frost-armored horned dragons. In the constitution that we have just established, the mansion of a deputy commander cannot exceed 20 mu. However, Situ Sen has exceeded it by 20 times, which is enough for him to die 10,000 times. Lord Zhuang Yan, you are one of the framers of the constitution, so you should know the punishment of exceeding 20 times, right? Zhuang Yan shuddered. Behead, that's right. Yang Zhong stroked his beard and said proudly, Since the Imperial Army is the army that defends the Constitution, if not now, then when? This Situ Sen's mansion is as large as half of Zhe Tian Palace. An officer like him must have received a lot of bribes. Who else should we kill if not him? Zhuang Yan clapped his hands and said with a smile, Great. Great. This is great. Su Changjing squinted his eyes. However, don't forget that Situ Sen is a godly state expert. Although he is only a divine venerable one, he is still a god. How can our imperial army make Situ Sen submit? Lord Su, please rest assured. Yang Zhong said, Since we have the means to buy the demonic crystal cannons, we naturally have the means to buy the weapon that can restrain a godly state expert, the demonic heart arrow. The Empire's battlefield is almost 1,000 miles from Winter Frost City to the steel protective wall. There are many demonic heart arrows along the way. I have already ordered my Imperial Guards to equip them with demonic heart arrows. As long as you shoot Situ Sen before he gets on the dragon, he will be nothing but a mortal. When do we do it? Zhuang Yan asked. Yang Zhong said, We do it at midnight. We will execute him at dawn. Let Lin Mu wake up to find the head of the deputy commander of the Longdan army camp hanging on the palace gate of Zhe Tian Palace. Good, very good. Zhuang Yan's eyes were full of ruthlessness. He said, Men, gather the imperial army immediately. I want 10,000 cavalrymen, no, 20,000, all of them must be elites. We will do it at midnight. Yes, Lord Su. Late at night, the Situ residence was brightly lit. Nearly 200 soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were guarding the Situ residence fanned out outside the residence. Each of them held a sharp sword in their hand, preventing the imperial army from taking another step forward. A centurion said coldly, This is the residence of General Situ's senator who dares to make trouble? Zhuang Yan rode his horse forward and stretched out his hand to unroll a piece of paper. He said, Situ-san expanded his mansion without permission and violated the constitution. The Congress has already issued an arrest warrant. Anyone who dares to disobey will be killed. Come and try if you have the guts. Go. The two sides quickly engaged in a fierce battle. The Imperial Army's heavy shield soldiers surged forward like a tide. However, the 200 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp were like an impenetrable wall. On the other hand, the Imperial Army on the periphery was constantly being slashed by the sharp swords. Damn it. This is a rebellion. Su Changjing shook his arm. The sword in his hand shone brightly. It was a supreme-grade book. Roar. Flames fell from the sky and landed on the 200 elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp. Screams were heard. How could the bodies of ordinary people resist the power of the heavenly book? Thousands of Imperial Army soldiers rushed forward and killed the soldiers of the Longdan army camp who were burned by the flames. They were unstoppable. However, just before the group of people entered the residence, a golden light suddenly bloomed. It was Situ-sen's attack. Buzz. The sword aura contained divine power. Situ-sen's sword instantly killed dozens of Imperial Army soldiers. His face was filled with anger. He shouted in a low voice, Bastards, how dare you use force on the Empire's Longdan army camp? The culprit has appeared. Zhuang Yan waved his hand and said, Go. Kill him on the spot if he resists. A group of archers quickly appeared. They aimed at Situ-sen and unleashed a barrage of arrows. However, Situ-sen's movements were simply too fast. His entire body was like a bolt of lightning that was difficult to capture. His longsword swept through the crowd with snowflakes. After sweeping a circle, dozens of Imperial Army soldiers were instantly frozen into ice cubes by the power of his star mantra. Kill, kill, kill. When Situ-sen saw that a group of his subordinates had been killed, he was extremely enraged. His killing intent had been completely ignited. His blade was imbued with divine power, and he directly pierced into the crowd, charging towards a group of feudal vassals. You despicable animals. I didn't die on the battlefield, but do you think I'll die in the hands of you lowly people? Situ-sen's longsword let loose a ringing sound, and he quickly unleashed initial starlight into the crowd, blasting a massive crater into the stone ground in front of the manor. 7 or 8 soldiers were instantly torn to shreds by the eruption of energy, but there was still a relentless barrage of arrows flying toward him, only to be repelled by Situ-sen's suit of battle armor. How many of our Imperial Army soldiers are you trying to kill? One of the feudal lords, Zhou Heng, abruptly gripped his saber tightly as he yelled, Get out of my way. I'm going to kill him. Zhou Heng was the most powerful being among the feudal lords, but he had overestimated himself. Die. A burst of purple flames appeared on the blade of his sword, and after destroying Zhou Heng's saber, Situ-sen quickly slashed his sword through the air, instantly vaporizing Zhou Heng's body. Thump thump thump, several demon heart arrows also instantly pierced through Situ-sen's suit of battle armor before piercing into his arms. Master Zhou Heng is dead. Master Zhou Heng is dead. All of the Imperial Army soldiers were in a state of panic. Zhuang Yan roared with fury, How dare you, Situ-sen? How dare you defy the law and kill a royal guard? Men, kill them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, all of a sudden, Several iron nets that were filled with demon heart stones fell from the sky, instantly trapping the severely wounded Situ-san within. Several Imperial Army soldiers charged through the nets before striking Situ-san's suit of armor with their sabers. This renowned general who had dominated the entire eastern region battlefield let loose a muffled groan as he fainted. "Tie him up and bring him back to the Imperial Army. Soldiers, enter the residence and gather evidence of Situ-san's corruption. Kill all of those giant dragons and frost armor dragons." Zhuang Yan's expression darkened with rage. Even though they had managed to kill Situ-san, the Imperial Army had lost Zhou Heng, and that was a massive humiliation to the Imperial Army. Chapter 948. In one of the many rooms in Zetian Palace, a person sat cross-legged on a futon. Golden miniature elephant wheels slowly rotated around his body. It was as spectacular and magnificent as a planet orbiting a star. These days, Lin Muyu had never slacked off in his training. He needed to become stronger, and he needed to become stronger quickly in order to cope with the changes that might occur in the future. Beside him, Tang Xiaoxi leaned against the headboard and dozed off. She seemed to be very tired. Tang Xiaoxi did not have much time to train. She relied more on her innate talent. Perhaps, to her, ample rest was much more important than hard training. Qin Yin held a wooden sword in her hand. She was dressed in the long dress of an empress. Under the illumination of the crane lamp, she slowly swung the wooden sword. Although it was just an ordinary wooden sword, an invisible aura surged around the sword. It was as if every strike of the sword had the power to swallow the heaven and earth. This kind of aura was the essence of Shi Yan's 7 strikes. Yi Hai slowly entered a state of natural sleep. Lin Muyu relaxed his entire body and let the divine power flow through his body. It automatically refined his muscles, bones, and flesh. This training method could also increase the strength of his divine power step by step. The strength of his power was related to the stage of his cultivation. Only when his power reached a certain level could he break through to a new realm. But suddenly, Lin Muyu woke up from his training. He frowned and said, "Something bad happened. Situ-sen's aura has disappeared." "What happened?" Qin Yin was stunned. She closed her eyes and carefully sensed for a while. She said, "Indeed, General Sen's aura has disappeared." "Ah." Tang Xiaoxi slowly woke up. "What happened?" "I'm afraid that Situ-sen has met with a mishap. I can no longer capture his aura." Lin Muyu instantly felt a chill down his spine. His forehead was full of sweat. If he did not faint, then he is dead. Raising his hand to grab the Xian Yuan sword on the sword rack, Lin Muyu did not even put on his armor. He just casually said to the 2 girls, "I am going to Situ-sen's mansion to take a look. Do you want to come with me?" "Yes." "Go." 3 rays of light flashed, and in the next moment, the figures of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in front of the mansion. Moreover, the flames of war in front of the mansion had not yet been extinguished, and piles of flames were still burning the corpses of the dead. The horizontal board of the Situ mansion had already been smashed, and there were even a few soldiers carrying a huge beast's head out. It was the head of a blue dragon. Lin Muyu was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She flew forward and her power rippled out. She said sternly, "What's going on? What happened in the Situ residence? Who killed this blue dragon?" A few of the soldiers recognized Lin Muyu. One of the sergeants immediately knelt on one knee and said, "Greetings, Lin General. This is an order from the chief." General Situ-sen expanded the size of the mansion without permission, which greatly exceeded the restrictions of the constitution. Therefore, the Congress has decided to severely punish Situ's senator. As for this blue dragon, it was Commander Zhuang Yan who ordered us to shoot it with white diamond arrows. Lin Muyu gripped the Xian Yuan sword tightly. Her anger turned into power and surged out. The stone bricks under her feet cracked and rose. Her eyes seemed to be burning as she roared, "Who do you think you are? How dare you touch my people without permission? Are you looking for death?" This blue dragon is our trophy, a bargaining chip for the Empire to fight against a strong enemy in the future. How dare you shoot a giant dragon? What a bunch of idiots. Tell me, where is Situ-sun? What about Situ-shui? Where is she? The sergeant stammered, Situ-sun has been escorted to the Congress. He will be executed at dawn. We didn't see Situ-shui. She didn't return to the residence today. She should be living in the camp. Lin General, I didn't lie to you. Please spare my life, Lin General. Lin Muyu looked at the bodies of the elite soldiers of the Longdan army camp on the ground. She couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. She said, my soldiers, were they killed by you? The sergeant trembled, yes. It was the commander who ordered us to shoot them. These brothers of the Longdan army camp swore to protect Situ-sun, so they were shot. Zhuang Yan, you bastard. Lin Muyu was furious. With a wave of his palm, the sergeant immediately turned into ashes. He said angrily, put down the dragon head. The Situ residence is the territory of the Longdan army camp. All soldiers, get out. Yes. Yes, a group of soldiers retreated from the Situ residence while trembling. They knew who Lin Muyu was. In the eyes of the soldiers of the Empire, Lin Muyu was a godlike existence. In the eyes of the soldiers, Lin Muyu was the biggest warlord in the Empire. If anyone angered him, it wasn't impossible for him to kill them in public. Moreover, the two beautiful girls who came with Lin Muyu seemed very familiar. They were the Empress Qin Yin and the Princess Fu Gua, Tang Xiaoxi. Let's go to the Congress immediately. The most important thing is to save General Situ, Qin Yin said. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, we will split into two groups. I think since the soldiers have caught Situ-sun's mistake, they will definitely not let it go. Even if Xiao Yin and I go, they may not let it go. Since the soldiers are so daring, I will let them know how high the sky is. Xiao Shi, take my commander's seal and go to the Longdan army camp. Order Wei Chou to immediately lead 50,000 cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp into the city and surround the Congress. If Zhuang Yan doesn't hand over Situ-sun today, I will destroy the Congress. Tang Xiaoxi took the seal and said, yes, you and Xiao Yin must be careful. Don't make a move unless it's absolutely necessary. There are many soldiers in the army, and it is said that they have the Devil's Heart arrow. Yes, go ahead. After Tang Xiaoxi left, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin flew side by side in the direction of the Congress. The distance between them wasn't too far. It would take an hour to walk, but it would only take about 5 minutes to fly. It was late at night, but the Congress was brightly lit and heavily guarded. Just the periphery of the Congress was guarded by a dense group of 5,000 soldiers. There were even soldiers armed with magic crystal crossbows standing guard on the walls of the Congress. As expected, the soldiers had already made up their minds. Swoosh, swoosh, 2 rays of light descended from the sky. They were Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. They landed in the courtyard of the Congress and landed in front of Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. Zhuang Yan was stunned. Su Changjing was also stunned. Greetings. Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Lin General. A group of people knelt down one after another. After all, the Empress was supreme. She was the master of everything, and she was even above the newly established constitution. At least, that was what was written in the law. The Empress had the highest decision-making power, followed by the Congress. Where's Situ-sun? Lin Muyu looked at Zhuang Yan coldly. Zhuang Yan gritted his teeth and said, I don't know what Lin General is talking about. With a clang, the Xian Yuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu pointed the blade at Zhuang Yan's neck and said, I won't ask you a third time. Where's Situ-sun? Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. He retreated a few steps and knelt on the ground, saying, Your Highness, please understand. As a deacon of the nation and the commander of the nation's army, it is my responsibility to uphold the authority and enforcement of the Constitution. Situ-san expanded his mansion without permission and didn't repent even when we went to rectify his mistake. He even killed General Zhou. This person is reckless and presumptuous, and he has the style of a warlord. Our imperial capital's empress is supreme and governs the country. How can we tolerate such a madman? Qin Yin slowly opened her eyes. Even though she had tried her best to reduce the power emitted by the flaming eyes, it still made Zhuang Yan feel as if he was in a hell of fire. He was in unbearable pain. Situ-sen is the deputy commander of the Empire's regular army. According to the Constitution, the arrest of such a high-ranking general must first be approved by the Congress and then approved by me. Secondly, to kill Situ-sen, it must be approved by all the members of the Congress. Zhuang Yan, aren't you being a little too hasty? Everyone thought that Qin Yin was just an empress who was well versed in martial arts, but they didn't know that she had already memorized the newly established constitution. Zhuang Yan knelt on the ground, dumbfounded and speechless. Qin Yin continued, if you really kill Situ-sen, then your crime will be private punishment. As long as Situ-sen is dead, you, Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and Lu Shiyu will have to pay for Situ-sen's death with your life. The Congress will continue to implement this as a national policy, but I will never allow you to abuse your power for personal gain. Do you understand? With just a few simple sentences, Zhuang Yan completely gave up on the idea of killing Situ-sen immediately. It could be said that Qin Yin's words had completely saved Situ-sen's life. Then, where is Situ-sen? Qin Yin asked faintly. Zhuang Yan said, he is locked up in the backyard of the Congress. But Your Highness, it's true that Situ-sen expanded his residence without permission. We can spare Situ-sen's life, but we must hold him accountable. Therefore, we must not release Situ-senator. This is the responsibility and mission of the national army. Bring Situ-sen here. Lin Muyu said faintly, I am the Empire's marshal. I have the right to see my subordinate and ensure his safety. But, this is against the law. Which part of the Constitution states that the marshal cannot see the generals of the national army? Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. But Zhuang Yan still wanted to dodge. However, out of the blue, Lin Muyu's figure suddenly stepped forward. She raised her hand and slapped Zhuang Yan's cheek. Zhuang Yan's cheek immediately turned blood red. Zhuang Yan even rolled away from the slap and was held up by a group of soldiers. Looking at Zhuang Yan coldly, Lin Muyu said faintly, Zhuang Yan, if you are smart, quickly hand over Situ-senator, otherwise, I will crush your bones and scatter your ashes. I want to see Situ-sen safe and sound right now. Su Changjing hurriedly said, please calm down, Lin General. Sir Zhuang Yan is after all a deacon of the national army and a commander of a regular army. Isn't Lin General Lin's slap equivalent to an abuse of justice? Lin Muyu smiled. If my slap is an abuse of justice, then is it murder for you to kill hundreds of my brothers in the Longdan army camp? We are just carrying out our official duties. Su Changjing hurriedly explained. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, don't be in a hurry to explain. I will settle accounts with you for killing my men in the Longdan army camp. None of you will be able to escape. Now, get Situ-sen here. You. Lu Shiyu was furious. Lin General, don't go too far. With that, the group of archers behind Lu Shiyu raised their longbows in unison and aimed their white drill arrows at Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. Ha 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 ha, Lin Muyu burst into laughter and said, what a huge joke. The swords of the national army are actually pointed at the Empress and the Marshal. Are you the guards of the national army or a group of rebels? Come on, try to shoot as many arrows as you can. This way, there will be no more national army tomorrow. As for you traitors, I will restore the old system of the Empire. I will put your heads on pikes and place them on the city walls. I will send people to kill your wives and children, dig up your ancestral graves, and wipe out your entire clan. Come on, give me a reason to kill you. Release the arrows. The group of archers was dumbfounded. Facing Lin Muyu's monstrous aura, who would dare to make a move? Chapter 949. Stop. A dignified voice came from the inner hall. The president of the Congress, Qin Yan, had finally arrived with a crutch. His aged face was dignified as he said, "Are you trying to rebel? Put down your bows and arrows. In front of you is the Empress and the Marshal of the Empire. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, how did you restrain your subordinates?" Zhuang Yan hurriedly raised his hand. "All of you, put down your weapons." He glared at Lu Shiyu as if blaming him for letting his subordinates assume a fighting stance. This way, trouble followed, and it wasn't just ordinary trouble. "Greetings, Chief." The group of Congress soldiers saluted. After all, the highest commander of the Congress army was Chief Qin Yan in name. However, Qin Yan couldn't voice his bitterness because the Congress army was never under his control. "Greetings, Your Highness." "Greetings, Lin General," Qin Shao said. "Uncle, you may dispense with the formalities," Qin Yin said faintly. She had a stomach full of anger but couldn't vent it. Since Qin Yan was here, she had to give him face. Qin Yan held his father's arm and said loudly, "Come, bring General Situ Sun here." A few Sanctum instructor-level practitioners carried a person over. It was the unconscious Situ Senator. His eyes were tightly shut and he was in a daze. No one knew if he had fainted or died. Lin Muyu hurriedly went forward and checked his breath. He was still breathing, but it was very weak. She quickly raised her palm and the healing power quickly surrounded Situ Senior. "Big brother, don't waste your energy." Qin Yan said, "General Sun was shot by a poisonous arrow and his body was poisoned. He won't wake up for a while unless someone knows how to detoxify it." "What poison is it?" Lin Muyu looked at Zhuang Yan and roared, "What poison? Speak." Zhuang Yan stammered, "Emerald Eagle's poison, Emerald Eagle's poison." Lin Muyu was drenched in cold sweat. She had heard of this poison before. The emerald eagle was a rare bird, but its beak was highly venomous. The poison seeped directly into the brain and could destroy the nervous system of a person's brain. If it was delayed for too long without treatment, the person would be a cripple even if they woke up. "You guys are so ruthless, using poison on the deputy commander of the empire?" Lin Muyu gnashed her teeth as she glared at Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. Her eyes were filled with fury, and she could not wait to burn these despicable people into ashes. Zhuang Yan cupped his fists and explained, "Situ Sen is an immortal state expert, so we have to be careful. Do you have the antidote for the Emerald Eagle's poison?" Reporting to Lin General, "This poison is incurable. There is no antidote at all. We can only rely on the fate of the victim," Su Changjing said. "Fate?" Lin Muyu smiled miserably and said, one word after another, "Situ Sun has followed me for 8 years and made great contributions in the past 8 years. If he dies, all of you will be buried with him. None of the 500,000 soldiers will be left behind. They will all be buried with Situ Sun." Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, Lin Muyu said coldly, "Ah Yan, go to the spiritual medicine department immediately and ask head Deacon Chuyao to come and diagnose him. She might have the antidote." "No, we'll send Situ Sun to the spiritual medicine department immediately." "Wait." Zhuang Yan raised his arm and said, "Situ Sun is still a felon and can't leave the parliament. This is the rule of the constitution. Please don't make things difficult for us, Lin General." "How dare you?" Zhuang Yan closed his eyes and said, "If Lin General wants to kill me, then kill me. I, Zhuang Yan, will die to protect the dignity of the constitution. My death is not to be regretted, but Lin General trampled on the law. This behavior is despicable. In the future, the world will understand why I died." Lin Muyu smiled. "Zhuang Yan, you're a good dog, but you have such a loyal performance." "Not bad." Qin Yan cupped his fists and said, "Lin General, I think it's better to ask head Deacon Chuyao for help." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. "Ah Yan, go quickly. Go personally." "Yes, big brother." Qin Yan had already shattered the void and left in a flash. However, the atmosphere in the parliament was still tense. After a long time, the rescuers from the spiritual medicine department didn't arrive. Instead, it was the heavy galloping of horses outside the parliament. After a few loud booms, the doors of the parliament were blasted open by magic crystal crossbows. Arrows were shot in from the outside, and the 5,000 soldiers in charge of guarding the perimeter became corpses in the blink of an eye. Amidst the thick smoke, the cavalry from the Longdan army camp led by Wei Chou and Situ Shui charged in. In terms of combat strength, even 10 soldiers from the Longdan army camp wouldn't be a match for 1 soldier from the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou held a head in his hand, dismounted from his horse, and knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Your Highness." "Greetings, Lin General." "Whose head is it?" Lin Muyu asked. "A general. He has already admitted to killing a few of our brothers from the Longdan army camp in the Situ residence," Wei Chou said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Zhuang Yan was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He originally thought that the parliament would be relatively safe with so many soldiers guarding it, but he didn't expect that it would collapse at the first blow from the regular army. Lin Muyu asked faintly, "How many people did you bring?" 50,000 cavalry. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "I have already surrounded the parliament. Not even a fly can escape. As long as Lin General gives the order, I will bring people to wipe out all the soldiers in the parliament." The simple cleanup was like a bolt from the blue to the commanders of the Imperial Army. After all, there were 20,000 Imperial Army soldiers stationed in the Imperial Palace. You are all crazy. You must be crazy," Zhuang Yan muttered. Lin Muyu sneered, "No, you are the crazy one. Zhuang Yan, do you know what kind of army is the Longdan army camp? This is an army that has existed since year 7731 of the Empire calendar. It participated in the war when the Iha nation besieged Lanyan city. The Longdan army camp has been fighting for 11 years. How many people have died and how many times their blood has been changed? If the Longdan army camp didn't exist, the empire would have been annihilated many times. How dare you order the massacre of the soldiers in the Longdan army camp? You are the crazy one who doesn't know who you are." At this moment, Situ Shui dashed forward and pounced on Situ's senator. Her eyes were red and anxious as she said, "Brother. What happened to you? Brother. I haven't been back for a day and you have become like this." "Ah Shui, General Sun has been poisoned," Qin Yin said. Before she finished speaking, 2 people suddenly descended from the sky. It was Qin Yan and Chu Yao. Chu Yao was dressed in the elegant white robe of the Great Deacon. She landed beside Situ Sen and quickly diagnosed his pulse. Her brows were slightly furrowed and she didn't say anything. Instead, she took out a set of silver needles from her waist. "Sister Chu Yao, can he still be saved?" Lin Muyu bent down and asked. Chu Yao nodded. Fortunately, Situ Sen's cultivation is profound. The Emerald Eagle's poison was sealed in his blood vessels with his divine power, but it didn't enter his heart and head. I will use the method of drinking blood and purging the poison with silver needles to save him. You, help me guard. During this period of time, no one can disturb me. Also, tell the people outside to stop fighting. Many people have already died." "Okay." Lin Muyu waved her hand. "Wei Chou, stop fighting. Capture all the murderers who participated in the attack on Situ residence and send them to Ding Shi. Let Ding Shi punish them according to the military law." "Yes, Lin General." Zhuang Yan hurriedly said, "No, the country has its laws. They are only law enforcers. They are definitely not murderers." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You carry out your national law, I will carry out my military law. Without my military order, you attacked the regular army of the empire without permission. I am already being lenient by not banning the designation of the national army." Zhuang Yan was startled and didn't say anything else. If the national army was banned, then this operation of the national army was equivalent to losing everything. Detoxification with silver needles was a long process. The silver needles were pierced into the blood vessels, and after a long time, black blood would flow out along the silver needles. Situ Shui carefully wiped at the side, while Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi were guarding at the side. This night was too important for the empire. This was the first large-scale conflict between the National Army and the Longdan Army camp. If it wasn't handled well, it would lead to civil strife. Even if the Longdan Army camp won, how could it be considered a victory if they slaughtered 500,000 soldiers of the empire? Lin Muyu was afraid to take action, and Zhuang Yan and the others were also afraid. This made the situation reach a delicate balance, and no one was willing to break this balance. Until dawn, suddenly Situsen whimpered and slowly opened his eyes, but he was too weak to make a sound. He just blinked when he saw Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. This was already his etiquette. Have a good rest. Lin Muyu frowned and said, rebuild the Situ residence into the barracks of the Longdan army camp in the city. It won't be included in the plan of the residence. Buy land and double the size of the city. Accommodate 10,000 soldiers to live and train in the city. If anyone comes to cause trouble, kill them without reporting back. Yes. Wei Chou and Situ Shui showed a trace of gratification. Lin Muyu looked coldly at Zhuang Yan and the others, stood up, stretched her body, and said, it's better for the national army to train properly and not make trouble for yourselves. Wei Chou, deploy 20,000 soldiers to the Longdan army camp to guard outside the barracks of the national army. Without the deployment order from the Ministry of War, kill any soldiers without the Empress's warrant. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, let's go back. Okay. Everyone escorted the Empress out, but before she left the residence, a light cavalry from the Ministry of War came from afar, dismounted, and knelt on the ground. He said in a low voice, Your Highness, Lin General, a man who claims to be the governor of Ba Huang province requests an audience. He says his name is Qian Feng. Qian Feng? Lin Muyu was stunned. Where is he? In Zhe Tian Palace Hall. Okay, we will go immediately. Yes. In Zhe Tian Palace Hall, Qian Feng was dressed in a white robe. Behind him were 4 high-level demon generals, all of whom were at the rank of captaincy. When Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi entered the hall, Qian Feng immediately knelt with his subordinates and said loudly, Qian Feng pays his respects to your highness and Lin General. Lin Muyu laughed heartily. She went forward to support Qian Feng by his arm and said, Marshal, it's been a long time. If you didn't delay the flowing spirit army at the Tongtian Gorge, I'm afraid Lanyan City would have long been in the hands of others. I'm just doing my duty to protect my homeland. Qian Feng touched his nose, looked deeply at Qin Yin, and said, Your Highness, it's been a long time. Congratulations on your rebirth and obtaining the flaming eyes. Can I take a look at it? Okay. Qin Yin slowly opened the flaming eyes. Immediately, Qian Feng was covered in cold sweat and said, What a powerful domain. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Marshal Qian Feng, you must have something to do in the imperial capital this time. Logically speaking, Ba Huang province is being rebuilt. As the governor, you should be extremely busy. That's right. I have something to do. Qian Feng said, when we were excavating underground magic crystals, we accidentally collapsed a mountain and made some shocking discoveries at the bottom of the mountain. Oh. What discovery? There are many people here. Lin Muyu smiled and waved her hand to dismiss the people around her. There were only 3 to 5 people left. Qian Feng quickly took out a white handkerchief and slowly unfolded it. There were actually 2 dead bees lying quietly in the handkerchief and said, This is the discovery. Winter is coming, but there are still bees? Qin Yin was stunned. Your Highness, the truth is here. Qian Feng quickly pulled the bee's head and tail apart. He saw that the inside of the bee was not some internal organs, but a metallic cylinder. There were even sparks on it. Chip, Lin Muyu's body trembled. Chapter 950. What is a chip? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were puzzled. It's hard to explain in a few words. Lin Muyu held the chip in her hand and looked at it carefully under the sunlight. She said, Marshal Qianfeng, are there any other strange discoveries besides these? Yes. Qianfeng nodded. There is a huge building complex at the foot of the mountain. It's very strange. I can't tell what it is. The periphery has been destroyed by the armored demons, but the interior has been preserved by my order. This kind of bees swarm, countless, and there are still countless bees in some sealed boxes in the building complex. They are the chips you mentioned, Lin General. What is a chip? It's a kind of technology. Lin Muyu nodded and said, it's a product that is at least 200 years ahead of our current technological era, or even more. I can't tell for the time being, but this matter is of great importance and is very likely to affect the development of the continent in the future. Since this thing is found in the mountains of the Tongtian Gorge, let's go and have a look at it immediately. I also want to see what it is with my own eyes. Yes. Qianfeng made a fist and palm salute. Qin Yin puffed out her chest and said, I want to go too. Tang Xiaoxi also nodded. Lin Muyu frowned. The people of the Congress are stirring up trouble in Lanyan City. I'm afraid it's not appropriate for us to all go there. It's not inappropriate. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples. If we fly in the air, it will take us at most 1 day to go to the Tongtian Gorge and 2 days at most. The capital is guarded by General Feng and Yan. Nothing serious will happen. Besides, didn't you order the Longdan army camp to guard Lanyan City? Well, let's go now. We can still make it in time for the morning court meeting the day after tomorrow. All right. Lin Muyu nodded at Qianfeng and said, in that case, Marshal Qianfeng will lead the way. We have to rush to Tongtian Gorge as fast as possible. It just so happens that Xiao Yin hasn't been to Ba Huang province since she came back. Let's treat this trip as a long journey for the Empress. Qianfeng cupped his fists. It is my province's honor to have your highness inspect Ba Huang province. Then, let's go. Yes. In the sky, 4 figures rushed into the sky. When they reached a height of almost 1,000 meters, they suddenly turned and rushed towards the northeast. Qianfeng, who had the lowest cultivation among the 4, was also close to the God-King realm. They were very familiar with flying. Compared to the pericelestial experts, they knew better how to use their divine power to fly and maintain their physical strength and speed. While flying at high speed, it was a piece of cake to overlook thousands of miles of mountains and rivers. The beauty of the shattered cauldron world far surpassed that of the celestial pole continent. The mountains, rivers, and rivers were beautiful. The land was lush, and it also surpassed the wilderness and deserts of the celestial pole continent. The main drainage basin of the Rice River cut the land into several pieces, while the subdrainage basin nourished and irrigated thousands of miles of farmland. Along the way, there were groups of villages and sheep herding. The shattered cauldron world, which was still considered rich after several wars, was indeed a treasure among the stars. This is our world. Lin Muyu said excitedly. The corner of Qin Yin's mouth rose slightly. She maintained the speed of flying side by side with Lin Muyu and said, this is the world that Brother Yu has endured all these years to protect. The people of the nation are right about one thing, the world belongs to the people of the world and not directly to the emperor. For so many years, the 3 kings have ruled the world with benevolence and righteousness. You guys have worked hard. Lin Muyu laughed softly. It's not hard. Don't we have Xiao Yin now? Brother Feng and I can also rest a little and slack off. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her lips. The nation has repeatedly caused trouble. I think you and General Feng can't slack off. Lin Muyu smiled. She looked at Qianfeng and said, Marshal Qianfeng, you have also heard about the matter of the nation's army, right? I have heard a little about it. Qianfeng said in a deep voice, given my temperament, I will definitely not condone the nation. I would rather fight to the death than kill this group of despicable people. However, Her Highness Yin and Lin General Lin's actions are more inclined to the way of the king. They are much more brilliant than what I, a general from a humble background, would do. However, what I don't understand is, since Lin General allowed the nation to continue, does he not have any plans for the future? He has plans. A radiance flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She said, there is nothing wrong with the constitutional monarchy. It is a progress of civilization. What is wrong is that the nation has been controlled by a group of despicable people with military power. If we could change the blood of the nation, perhaps this nation would become a true nation. It could be a nation that can help Xiao Yin strategize, share responsibilities, and formulate the nation's strategy. Qin Yin was slightly startled. She opened her small mouth. Big brother, you know so many things. Wait until you return to my hometown. You will naturally understand why I know all these. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose, but that might be something that will happen 10 or even 20 years later. Without the strength of a grand perfection god emperor, it would be hard to travel through space to return to my hometown because that place is too far away. It is unbelievably far. Qin Yin nodded lightly. I will work hard to cultivate. In the wind, Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with expectation and gentleness. At this moment, she did not look like an empress. Instead, she looked more like Lin Muyu's long-awaited girlfriend. Perhaps the sands of time would sharpen one's willpower, allowing one to understand what one wanted more. In the past, Qin Yin wanted to live up to her ancestors and support Great Qin. Now, after experiencing so many things, Qin Yin finally understood that accompanying the person she loved was the most beautiful dream. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at them. She smiled. Then what is Mu's plan for the future of the nation? Yes. Lin Muyu pondered. The Qin Empire has a total of 13 provinces and more than 150 states. Hence, we can issue an edict to choose a member from each state to participate in the parliament. And this member should be a person with lofty ideals. With these members, we can replace the feudal vassals in the parliament. Step by step, we can reform the parliament. In less than half a year, the parliament will be renewed. Qin Yin was surprised. Actually, I have the same idea. Let's implement it after we return. Amen. When the sun was setting, the four of them flew into Tong Tian Gorge. Looking down, the barracks in the gorge stretched for dozens of miles. Rows of Central South Iron Cavalry finished their training and were on their way back. In the past half a year, Tong Tian Gorge had been attacked time and time again. But the army was getting bigger and bigger. There were at least 50,000 iron cavalry in the gorge. Qianfeng was indeed an outstanding general. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It seems that our Ba Huang province is now strong and well equipped. Qianfeng also smiled. Thanks to Lin General's edict, Yunzhong province and Tianshu province have been transporting supplies to Ba Huang province. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to gather such a large team. Not only that, there are already 10 giant flying snakes in the insect nest. They're just waiting for Lin General's command. The whole army of the celestial race will fight to the death for the Qin Empire. Alright, Qianfeng suddenly pointed to the distance and said, that hill is right in front of us. We'll be there soon. Shall we go down? Amen. The four of them swooped down. Sure enough, half of the hill in the distance had obviously collapsed. There were traces of battle on the periphery, and pieces of broken steel were scattered all over the ground. Lin Muyu looked carefully. The hill had collapsed at least 300 meters deep into the ground. There was actually a building complex in such a deep place. How much manpower was needed to build such a building? Perhaps it had long surpassed the difficulty of building a pyramid. However, the manpower and material resources of the Broken Cauldron realm were obviously ordinary. How could they build such a building that was so ingenious? Greetings, Marshal. A group of high-level demon guards knelt down one after another. Qianfeng walked in front and said, Her Highness the Empress, Lin General, and Princess Xi are all here. Lead the way. They want to see this unknown and mysterious domain. Yes. The demons had just built a wooden corridor, but it was very unstable. However, it was still there. Lin Muyu and the others didn't intend to use any corridor. Instead, they leaped and flew in the air, slowly descending. In the depths of the ground, faint rays of light appeared. It was the torches in the hands of the demons. Lin Muyu raised her hand and took out her 7-luminary celestial gourd. The light of dawn burst out, instantly illuminating the entire huge cave. At this moment, everyone could see that it wasn't a cave, but a completely different world. At a depth of 300 meters, the ground was filled with densely packed integrated circuit boards. In addition, there were human-shaped steel ants that looked like ants. However, they were all lying on the ground in piles. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Qin Yin had a doubtful look on her face. Qianfeng cupped his fists and smiled, "There's nothing we can do. When we first entered the cave, these steel ants actually moved and even attacked our army. Fortunately, I mobilized 20,000 armor demons and annihilated them all." Lin Muyu frowned. Qianfeng didn't know that these were actually robots, just like worker ants. This unique world was dug and built by these worker ants. This place was more like a huge machine workshop. Judging from the aura, there wasn't a trace of human presence. It should be a world of machines. "Everyone, be careful." Lin Muyu pulled out the Xianyuan sword and said, "There may be unpredictable dangers." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly. Although they didn't know what happened, Lin Muyu must have her reasons for being so nervous. Under the guidance of several high-level demons, everyone walked along this high-tech building complex for nearly 10 minutes. Qianfeng said, "If we go any further, we'll reach that big guy." "Big guy?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Yes, a big guy made of a whole piece of steel building, but we don't know what it is. However, I've issued an order to set that place as a forbidden area. No one is allowed to enter. Let's go and have a look." Lin Muyu's heart moved. Further ahead, there was a huge alloy door, but it had been split open, and the crack had been melted. Needless to say, it must be Qianfeng's masterpiece. This kind of alloy was very strong, but it couldn't withstand a fierce blow from a god. After entering the door, there was a huge operating space. When Lin Muyu stepped in, a very stiff computer-synthesized voice came, "Shutdown system." Chapter 951. What's that sound? Qin Yin immediately summoned her golden wings and slowly opened her flaming eyes. She was already in combat mode. Tang Xiaoxi also opened her beautiful eyes wide nervously, and 9 flaming tails appeared behind her. "Don't be nervous." Lin Muyu walked to the center of the control room and looked around carefully. Everything seemed so empty and clean. Probably no one had been here before. Therefore, there was not a single chair or table in the entire control room. It was very strange. "Everyone, be quiet." Lin Muyu raised his Xianyuan sword. He could only take a gamble. He said softly, "Restart system." With a click, all the lights in the control room lit up, and the room was suddenly brightly lit. The black hole in the northernmost part of the control room suddenly flashed with a rebooting image. Less than 3 seconds after the rebooting, a language selection screen appeared, and one of them was Chinese. Lin Muyu's heart thumped violently. This place was like a miracle and a huge mystery. What exactly was it? Who sent this huge and advanced artificial intelligence to the Shattered Cauldron realm? Chinese. Lin Muyu said softly. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Qianfeng were confused. They had no idea what Lin Muyu was talking about, let alone what he meant. They only saw the strange light screen flickering in front of them. Soon, it transformed into the appearance of an elf girl. She was very beautiful, and a pair of transparent dragonfly wings were gently flapping behind her. She looked at Lin Muyu and said in the computer-synthesized voice, "Please place your right hand on the identification panel to confirm the user's identity." Lin Muyu was stunned. The bright floor tiles in front of them suddenly separated, and a machine rose quickly. There was a screen on top of it, and it was no different from the fingerprint recognition machine. Lin Muyu was a little excited, and his heart was beating very fast. He gently placed his palm on the identification panel. Immediately, the screen in front of him quickly changed the fingerprint and palm texture data, and at the same time, it analyzed his DNA structure and so on. Confirmation complete, 9,999% match. The computer-synthesized voice continued to prompt. User identity confirmed. Lin Ji, Shanghai, China, Conquer ID, Lin Muyu, World Top Player Ranking. Number 1, Citizen ID, 3101041990071353332, User Clearance, S-Class. Do you wish to immediately summon the special system you are bound to? Y and N appeared on the big screen. Lin Muyu gently touched Y, and the system suddenly became blurry. Then, a familiar figure appeared. It was still a system elf, but it had taken the form of the female elf officer, Lulu. At the same time, Lulu seemed to have woken up from a deep sleep. She opened her eyes and saw Lin Muyu. She could not help but cry out in joy, "Ah, it's Big Brother. Lulu, you didn't die?" Lin Muyu was also surprised. Lulu immediately teared up. "I thought Big Brother didn't want me anymore, so I slept for a long time. Look at the situation now, why did the mainframe suddenly let me out?" "Don't ask me first." "Let me ask you first," Lin Muyu said. Lulu nodded obediently, then blinked her eyes and said, "Ask whatever you want, Big Brother. Lulu will tell you everything I know." Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Qian Feng, and the rest were dumbfounded. They did not know what to say at all. Everything before their eyes was beyond their understanding, and they could not understand it at all. However, seeing how excited Lin Muyu was, they did not disturb him. They would let him figure it out first. Lin Muyu said, "Lulu, tell me first. Where are we now?" Broken Silence Hall. Lulu said, "This is the Lord Celestial Emperor's bedroom, and also the heart of the entire Celestial Emperor system." Celestial Emperor? Lin Muyu was confused. "Tell me, what's the Celestial Emperor, and what's going on?" Celestial Emperor seems to be a product of Earth, so why is he in the Shattered Cauldron realm? Lulu said, "Celestial Emperor is an intelligent exploration system jointly developed by China, the United States, and Russia in 1983. It was secretly launched by China's expedition rocket and sent to distant galaxies to explore the mysteries of life." Ouyang Luofeng, who participated in the development of the Celestial Emperor system, was known as the father of Celestial Emperor because he gave Celestial Emperor the ability to grow on his own. Coincidentally, Celestial Emperor's system program package was sucked into a wormhole while flying in space. At that time, there was a battle between gods in the wormhole, and Celestial Emperor was involuntarily sucked into the reincarnation space and sent back to 124 years ago. Therefore, Celestial Emperor grew on his own for over 100 years and possessed unimaginable technological abilities. However, he was still restricted by the laws set by Ouyang Luofeng back then. He couldn't harm the innocent and couldn't invade other planets. Therefore, although Celestial Emperor was very advanced, he only played the role of a scout. Later on, Celestial Emperor's program package fell in the Shattered Cauldron realm 63 years ago and settled down in the Tongtian Gorge. However, he also collected the data of countless lives in the Shattered Cauldron realm and other galaxies. 17 years ago, he returned the data to Earth. The people on Earth used this data and technology to create the epic-making full simulation game, Conquer. It was also because of this that your spiritual consciousness was chosen and transmitted to the Shattered Cauldron realm through consciousness transmission. Lin Muyu's hair stood on end. He knew that things weren't as simple as they seemed, but he didn't expect it to be this complicated. "Lulu, why didn't you tell me about these things before?" Lin Muyu asked. Lulu lowered her head awkwardly and rubbed her hands together. "Big Brother didn't have enough authority to know about these things before, so the Celestial Arch ordered me not to say these things." "Then why can you say it now?" Lulu doesn't know either. "Maybe it's because Big Brother is strong enough." "Oh," Lin Muyu pondered for a moment before asking again. "So, those skills in Conquer, Star Arts, Fallen Star Steps, Imbibing / and so on, are all real martial arts?" Yes. Lulu nodded and said, the Celestial Arch created about 20 billion scout bees and sent them to various galaxies to explore new worlds. That's why he obtained a lot of data. However, the main settings and data of Conquer are based on Shattered Cauldron Realm because that world is the most fascinating. Does Earth have any new orders for the Celestial Arch? Lin Muyu suddenly thought of some bad things. If Earth could control the Celestial Arch, wouldn't that be terrible? Shattered Cauldron Realm would soon be in chaos. Lulu said, there won't be any more orders. The Celestial Arch receives orders through his life code, but Ouyang Luofeng passed away many years ago due to illness. Therefore, Conquer is the Celestial Thearch's last message to Earth. Lin Muyu felt a headache coming on. What plans does the Celestial Arch have for the future? Lulu, are you part of the Celestial Arch? Lulu smiled. I am 1/10 of the Celestial Thearch's program. However, Big Brother, you are the only person with S-level authority in the Celestial Arch system, so you are the controller of the Celestial Arch. If you wish for Lulu to be the Celestial Arch, then Lulu is. If you wish for it not to be, then Lulu is not. As for plans, the Celestial Arch will continue to live and continue to collect data in the universe. However, the Celestial Arch will not expand, and the worker ants he produces will not have any attack power. Lin Muyu frowned and said, so, even if I order the Celestial Arch to produce weapons and equipment for me, it won't work? Yes, Big Brother. Lulu chuckled and said, the rule that Ouyang Luofeng gave the Celestial Arch is the highest order. The Celestial Arch will never produce weapons and will never participate in wars. Even if he is attacked, the Celestial Arch will not fight back. At most, he will escape. How pitiful. He can't fight back. Qin Yin also understood some things. She pursed her red lips and felt indignant for the Celestial Arch. Tang Xiaoxi also said, yes, no wonder such a weak army like the Armor Demon Army can flatten this place. Qianfeng touched his nose. Princess Shi, actually, the Armor Demon Army is not weak. I have been training them in battle techniques all these years. These idiots are already very powerful, Lin Muyu continued to say. Then, Lulu, what can the Celestial Arch do for me? Can he provide me with the power of technology? No, the Celestial Arch cannot reveal anything related to war. Then what about martial arts techniques? That's possible. Lulu smiled slightly. Lin Muyu was overjoyed and said, then, give me all the martial arts techniques above S rank. Oh yes, write them into scrolls for me. How long will it take to complete? Scrolls? Lulu blinked and said with a smile, the Celestial Thearch's internal factory is very powerful. Big Brother, wait for 10 minutes. It will be done immediately. Okay. 10 minutes was not a long time, but Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others could feel the buzzing sound of machines coming from underground. So there was a factory underground. The Celestial Arch was simply omnipotent. Not long after, a passage opened at the side of the control room. They saw worker ants dragging metal boxes with wheels over. Sure enough, the martial arts techniques in the boxes had already been printed. They did not know what technology could be used to complete such a big process so quickly. There were a total of 5 boxes, and each box had at least 20 martial arts techniques. There were more than 100 martial arts techniques in total. The smell of ink filled the air. Among them, the first was the Star Art, followed by the God-consuming Slash, Ice Crystal Shield, Raging Flame Sword Technique, Teleportation Art and other martial arts techniques. For a moment, the two beauties, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, were dumbfounded. It was simply too subversive. So many powerful martial arts techniques had appeared all of a sudden. Even Lin Muyu's Star Art was among them. Qianfeng's mouth also twitched. Oh my god, Lin Muyu said cheerfully, hurry up, you three take your pick. After you are done, we will bring the rest back to Lanyan City. After carefully selecting, we will rebuild the Holy Temple and rebuild the Holy Relic Temple of the Empire. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were full of excitement. She nodded vigorously, yes. This way, at least in terms of martial arts, our great Qin will no longer be inferior to the celestial pole mainland. Lin Muyu had no interest in these martial arts techniques. She was biting off more than she could chew. Star art, 7 luminaries art, and formless elephant art were enough for her to use for a lifetime. Moreover, there was no formless elephant art among these martial arts techniques. It seemed that the celestial arch system's investigation had not penetrated into the realm beyond heavens. It was probably a new domain. The two beauties, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, were inspecting the martial arts techniques excitedly. They knelt on the ground together, graceful and beautiful. Lin Muyu also sat next to Qin Yin, then said to the female elf official, Lulu, can you provide me with the technology of the steam engine? Steam engine? Lulu narrowed her beautiful eyes. Brother, why don't you want the technology of the gasoline engine? You have to know that there is oil thousands of meters underground. Once the oil is extracted, you can produce real tanks. As long as I give you enough technology, you can even produce electronic equipment. I have a lot of manufacturing technology about the F-22 and Su-37 here. The Celestial Arch stole it from the defense network on Earth. In addition, I also have the technology to produce aircraft carriers. Brother, if you produce 10 aircraft carriers equipped with the Oracle defense system and place them in the East China Sea, will there be a fly that can fly over the celestial pole mainland? Lin Muyu was excited to death. Okay, quickly give me these technologies. However, Lulu crossed her arms in front of her chest and hugged her exquisite twin peaks. She said angrily, I knew you were a war maniac. I won't give you these technologies. If you break through the laws, the Celestial Thearcha's self-destruction program will automatically be triggered. Lin Muyu instantly became listless. A million curses ran through her heart. Even the system elf knew how to tease her master. Chapter 952. Then, what else can you offer me other than martial arts? Lin Muyu asked. Brother, didn't you want the technology of the steam engine? I can give it to you now. In addition, I can also give you the technology of the steam car, as long as you want it. Lulu flew in the air, her transparent wings flapping rapidly. Lin Muyu said, I'm afraid that's not enough. The casting technology of the Shattered Cauldron realm is not enough to build the steam engine. You still need to give me the advanced casting technology and the basic industrial knowledge. Just write them into words and give them to me as blueprints. Okay. Lulu nodded. Qin Yin asked in confusion, Brother Yu, what is the steam engine? It's a kind of energy source, although it's a bit crude. Then, what's the use of the steam engine you mentioned? Tang Xiaoxi blinked and asked again, I mean, what's the use of it for the Empire's war? Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, if we can build steam trucks, our soldiers and provisions will be able to travel thousands of kilometers in a day. They won't need to ride horses to travel thousands of kilometers in a day. It will only take them less than 3 days to travel from Lanyan City to Winterfrost City. Of course, this is only the most ideal situation. Our roads are not completely repaired yet. So it's not weapons. Qin Yin was slightly disappointed. If it's just to transport supplies and troops, I'm afraid it won't be able to improve our combat ability by a large margin. It can only improve our mobility in a small area. Also, the biggest problem we're facing right now is the lack of money and gold to build warships and heavy cannons. Yes, I know that too. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said, not only that, we're also short of food. Food is always a problem in every campaign, especially when it's a long and arduous expedition. Food is always the biggest problem. Tang Xiaoxi pursed her red lips and said, the potatoes from the Forest of Infinity have become the biggest military ration. Dried potatoes are easy to store and can be soaked in hot water during the march. It's just that potatoes can't be planted all year round. We can only plant them 2 or 3 times a year. Yes. Lin Muyu frowned. Lulu flapped her wings and said with a smile, Brother, you can create a thermostatic chamber. It shouldn't be a problem to create a thermostatic chamber in this world, right? Thermostatic chamber? Yes. Lulu said, the Celestial Ruler's factory may not have a lot of other things, but there is a lot of plastic. As long as we find a place with abundant sunlight and water, we can send worker ants to build a thermostatic greenhouse, and we can grow the potatoes you mentioned all year round. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. Lulu, didn't you say that the Celestial Arch would not participate in any form of war? But growing food is only what farmers do, it has nothing to do with the war. Besides, the Sky Sovereign has the hidden consciousness of saving lives and saving people. As long as Big Brother gives me a piece of land, the worker ants produced by the Sky Sovereign will quickly grow a large area of potatoes to provide food for Big Brother. This is not considered interfering in the war, is it? Ha, that's great, that's great. Lin Muyu was ecstatic. Qianfeng coughed and said, Lin General, behind this mountain range is a land bordered by a forest and a plain. It's about 100 miles of fertile land, but our divine race is not good at farming, so we haven't cultivated it. If it's really as this mysterious fairy said, then it's feasible. This subordinate can send troops to protect this place and divide this land into a potato plantation. Yes, that's settled. Lulu pointed to Qianfeng and said, Lulu, the matter of planting potatoes will be handed over to Marshal Qianfeng. Ah. Lulu seemed a little frightened. But Big Brother, this uncle is very fierce. He even brought a lot of big gray dogs to destroy some of the worker ants. Those aren't big gray dogs, those are the armored demon army of the divine race. Qianfeng explained with a pale face. Lulu didn't listen to Qianfeng's explanation and continued, there are about 200,000 worker ants under the Celestial Factory. According to their work efficiency, they should be able to plant the first batch of potatoes in 20 days. In addition, Lulu has a big gift for Big Brother. Oh. What big gift? Lulu bowed mysteriously and actually performed a Qin Empire's ladylike etiquette. Then, she pointed to the black screen behind her. Suddenly, the light of stars appeared, and soon, a huge map appeared on the screen. It was the map of Broken Cauldron World. At the same time, small gold, purple, and white dots appeared on the map. In addition, there were also pieces of fiery red territories that looked like silk. This is the border of the map. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's little mouths were wide open. Lin Muyu was stunned and said, What are these? Lulu giggled and said, These are the results of Celestial Ruler's investigation of Broken Cauldron World for so many years. Big Brother, look, the gold icon represents a huge underground gold mine, the purple icon represents a purple crystal mine, and the silver icon represents a white diamond mine. As for the red icon, that is what Big Brother wants the most. Magic crystal mine. It can't be true. Qin Yin couldn't help but open her flaming eyes. A pair of goddess-like beautiful eyes were filled with joy and hope. If these were all true, then it was simply an unimaginable wealth. Lulu smiled and said, Sister Qin Yin, these are naturally true. You are Big Brother's girlfriend, why would I lie to you? Qin Yin's face turned red and said, You. How do you even know this? Lulu puffed up her small chest and said proudly, Since Big Brother's S-rank identity allows me to integrate with Celestial Ruler's functions, then I can be said to know everything about this land. Lin Muyu was so excited that she was about to suffocate. She said, Lulu, print this map according to the division of the province and give it to me. It must be specific and detailed, understand? Yes, Big Brother. Very soon, the map was printed out, and Lin Muyu stored it away like a precious treasure. Lulu smiled and asked, Big Brother, I also have the distribution of underground oil and rare metal mines. Do you need them? I don't need them for the time being. Rare metals are temporarily useless. Yes, that's true. Most of those rare metals are used for aerospace. With Broken Cauldron World's technology, they probably won't be used for another 100 years. Lulu, you are now the spokesperson of Celestial Ruler. Who do you think is stronger, Broken Cauldron World or Earth? In terms of technology, Earth is naturally stronger, but in terms of strength, I'm afraid Broken Cauldron World is stronger. After all, spiritual energy is scarce on Earth, and there are very few cultivators. While focusing on developing technology, people have forgotten to train and explore their bodies and potential. Once they break through to the divine realm, all technology is equivalent to nothingness. Yes, that's right. Lin Muyu smiled and said, the hard fist is the hard truth. In that case, Big Brother, can Lulu send the worker ants to open up the wasteland and prepare to plant potatoes? By the way, Lulu only collected a small number of potatoes, and I need more germs. I need Big Brother to provide them to me. No problem. Lin Muyu stood up and said, Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, we can't leave Lanyan City for too long. Since the matter here has been solved for the time being, let's return to Lanyan City immediately and start rebuilding the sacred martial palace and sending back the potato germs. The sooner, the better. No one knows when the next war will come. In addition, I have put away the distribution maps of the gold, white diamond, purple crystal, and magic crystal mines. Later, I will separately order Su Jiantao, Tang Zhen, Chen Xiaoli, Qin Yong, Zhen Yifan, and other garrison generals to dig. We must firmly grasp these mineral veins in our hands. We can't let the Congress have a share of this, or else we will be even more passive in the future. Yes, let's go. Qin Yi nodded and then turned to Qianfeng and said, Qianfeng, listen to the announcement. Qianfeng immediately knelt on one knee and said, your subject is here. I officially confer you the highest governor of Bahuang province, with the rank of general of the Qin Empire. You will be in charge of the administrative and military affairs in the province. In case of emergency, you can act first and report later. In addition, you must discuss everything with Lulu about the potato plantation. Don't use force anymore. As long as Lulu requests it, you will be granted. Yes, thank you for your gift, Your Highness. Qianfeng tried hard to hide his excitement. After all, the era of the three kings had passed, and now it was the era of the female empress. The old officials conferred by the three kings were no longer effective, and Qin Yan's words were a new edict, which was equivalent to a reinvention. Lin Muyu patted Qianfeng's shoulder and smiled knowingly. There was no need to talk too much between heroes. With Qianfeng in the eastern region of the empire, Lin Muyu could rest assured. With Lin Muyu in the capital, Qianfeng could also rest assured that the status of the demon race in the empire would not be trampled. The next afternoon, the three of them arrived at Lanyan City. The first thing was to collect potatoes. They used a total of 27 space bags and filled them to the brim. Tang Xiaoxi brought Terralin, Lake, and the other god state experts to Tongtian Gorge. Qin Yin had to stay in Zetian Palace Hall to manage the situation, and Lin Muyu had to implement the new military strategy of the empire in the Divine Temple. This was extremely important for the Shattered Cauldron Realm. Only by improving and becoming stronger could the Shattered Cauldron Realm contend with the powerful celestial pole continent. On the square of the Divine Temple, more than 1,000 Divine Temple employees waited solemnly. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yan walked up the steps of the Divine Temple together, everyone knelt on one knee. Greetings, Lin General. Greetings, Great Deacon. In the eyes of the martial artists of the empire, Lin Muyu was the true martial god. Her position in the hearts of the people of the Divine Temple was probably much higher than that of Qin Yan, the Great Deacon of the Divine Temple. After all, Lin Muyu was also the Great Deacon of the Divine Temple in the past, and was once the pride of the Divine Temple. Dispense with the formalities. Rise. Lin Muyu raised both his hands and looked at everyone with a humble expression. He said with a smile, originally, I shouldn't have interfered with the affairs of the Divine Temple. However, the situation was urgent, so I overstepped my boundaries. I hope that Great Deacon doesn't blame me. Qin Yan could not help but laugh. What are you saying, big brother? The Divine Temple is your home to begin with. Lin Muyu nodded. Indeed, he had started off as a sparring partner in the Divine Temple of Lanyan City and walked step by step to where he was today. This place was indeed like his other home. Chapter 953. Make it short. Lin Muyu cleared her throat and said, "This time, I came to the sacred palace to restore the order in the sacred palace and rebuild the sacred martial palace in the eyes of the warriors of the Qin Empire. This is also the intention of Her Highness Yin. This time, I brought back a total of 114 martial arts manuals. Most of them are martial arts manuals that have never appeared on the continent. They are divided into 3 levels." The faces of the group of martial artists were filled with excitement when they heard this. Martial secrets and battle skills had always been scarce. Most families were unwilling to pass on their martial skills to outsiders. This was also human nature. Because of this, a very ordinary martial secret could be sold for several thousand gold coins on the market. This was enough to show how rare martial secrets were. Lin Muyu was very satisfied with everyone's performance. He continued, "There are a total of 4 first-class martial arts, namely, the martial god arts, the great void swordsmanship, the great karmic fire technique, and the purple thunder fist. However, the essence of these martial arts is extremely difficult to comprehend, so only the Grand Deacon, deacons, gold star instructors, and sparring partners are qualified to practice them. There are a total of 11 first-class martial arts, namely, the bone-crushing palm, the burning wind technique, the fierce gale sword technique, the thunder cliff technique, and the void palm technique. Only silver star instructors and sparring partners are qualified to practice them. There are a total of 99 first-class martial arts, namely, the heart-piercing finger, the thunder blade technique, and the hurricane spear technique. Anyone in the sanctum can practice these third-class martial arts." Everyone's emotions surged, and they all knelt down one after another, shouting, "Long live Lin General! Long live the Empress!" Lin Muyu smiled faintly and handed the 4 first-tier martial arts manuals to Qin Yan. "Ah Yan, don't copy these 4 manuals. Keep them in the secret room of the Sacred Hall. Send more experts to protect them. Don't let these martial arts spread to the celestial pole continent." "Yes, big brother, please rest assured." Qin Yan smiled cheerfully. Lin Muyu nodded. "Then I'll leave the matter of rebuilding the sacred martial palace to you. I still have something to discuss with Brother Feng. Take care, big brother." At night, in the Imperial Army camp. When Lin Muyu led Wei Chou, Situ Sen, and the others into the camp, Feng Jixing had already come out to greet them. With a red face, he said, There must be something good this time. I heard that you went to the Tongtian Gorge and saw something strange. You must have gained something, right?" "Yes, let's talk about it after we enter the tent." "All right." Entering the tent, under the light of an oil lamp, Lin Muyu spread out a map on the table. It was a map of Lingbei province, and there were many small marks on it. "This is?" Feng Jixing was stunned. Lin Muyu said, "The gold ones are gold ores, they can help us smelt and forge more Jinxin coins. The purple ones are amethyst ores, the silver ones are white diamond ores, and the red ones are magic crystal ores." "Really?" "Yes." "How did you get these positions?" Feng Jixing practically threw himself into the map, his face full of happiness. I'm rich." Lin Muyu was speechless. "It's a long story, I won't go into it. Anyway, it's absolutely accurate. Big brother Feng, I'm here to tell you that our Longdan army camp and the Imperial army can mine these ores separately. The nearest gold and magic crystal ores to Lanyan City are less than 200 li away. Since there's no war now, we should make use of this time to make a fortune." N. Feng Jixing nodded repeatedly. Lin Muyu pointed at the map and said, "This place is close to the dragon-seeking forest. The gold ores here are very rich, enough to forge 1 billion Jinxin coins. With this 1 billion Jinxin coins, we can build an imperial navy. The remaining money can also be used to forge magic crystal cannons and god-slaying cannons." Okay, Feng Jixing nodded repeatedly. "But the imperial treasury is empty. Even if we have Jinxin coins, we have nowhere to spend them." You're just wasting your time, aren't you? Why is there nowhere to spend them?" Lin Muyu smiled. The rich families in Lanyan City have stockpiled so many resources, food, and manpower. But they're greedy. We'll use these Jinshin coins to exchange for their manpower and resources. We'll make them misers while we use these resources to defend the empire against powerful enemies and even open up new lands. Big brother Feng, where did you learn economics? Feng Jixing slammed his palm on the table. Where did I get the chance to learn economics? In any case, I'll leave this gold mine to you. The sooner the better. Xiao Yin will also grant you the right to forge Jinshin coins. As for me, I'll bring the Longdan army camp to mine this magic crystal mine. It's located 50 li deep in the dragon-seeking forest. Remember, big brother Feng, I'll take care of the money. All right. Then, we'll only be left with the steam engine. Late at night, the two commanders of the Imperial Army and the Longdan army camp arrived at the Department of Weapons. Under the lamp, Qin Xiling stared at the blueprint of the steam engine for a long time without saying a word. He did not seem to understand it at all. On the other hand, old Roger, a mechanic from the land of exile, smiled and said, "The Marshal actually has the blueprint of the steam engine. It's really not simple." Qin Xiling smiled. "Teacher Roger, you know about this? It's a compulsory course for mechanics." Old Roger shook his head. "But I've studied it. The Shattered Cauldron realm doesn't have the technology to refine oil. So, if we're going to forge the steam engine, we can only use coal. There are coal mines. All the major chambers of commerce in Lanyan City sell coal," Feng Jixing said. "That's easy," Old Roger said confidently. "Since the Marshal and His Highness think highly of this old bag of bones, then I'll help Lord Qin Xiling complete the steam engine. However, I don't know if the Marshal wants to build a steam car or a steam train. Building a car in 3 months and building a railway in a year? Is that possible?" Lin Muyu asked. Old Roger muttered. "I'm afraid that will require a lot of money. I heard from the Ministry of Revenue that the National Treasury is empty. There's no money to build a railway. I'll take care of the money. You just need to supervise the construction." "Yes, I understand. Please rest assured, Marshal." "All right." Lin Muyu didn't sleep for the entire night. His eyes were slightly red. He only returned to Zetian Palace when the sky was about to brighten. The side palace he lived in was silent. But the moment he opened the door, he saw Qin Yin's figure. She was fanning the fire by the stove. The iron pot on the stove was already emitting green smoke and a faint fragrance. "Ah!" Qin Yin's eyes widened. When she saw Lin Muyu return, she blushed. "Brother Yu, you're back?" Her face was covered in dust, and there were some black streaks on her beautiful face. The Empress, who had been pampered since she was young, had never cooked anything. It was really hard on her. "Xiao Yin, you didn't sleep?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin smiled. "I slept, but I woke up early. When I saw that you weren't around, I knew that you must have been busy all night. So, I cooked some flour soup. It's good for people who stay up late. You can drink it in a while. If I remember correctly, there's a court meeting today. Well, I'll go over after you finish the soup." "Ha." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "What are you laughing at?" Qin Yin wiped her face and asked worriedly, "Don't tell me that I look ugly now. No, it's just that I feel that Xiao Yin is becoming more and more like a daughter-in-law. You don't have the majestic demeanor of an empress anymore." Qin Yin burst into laughter. She stepped forward and held his hand. "When my father was alive, he said that I would get married sooner or later. I have to learn to take care of my husband and learn to be filial to my elders. Oh, brother you also said that you would bring me back to meet your father one day. So, Xiao Yin should learn to be virtuous first. I have to prepare for a rainy day." Okay, Lin Muyu smiled happily. She sat on the carpet and hugged Qin Yin in her arms. Immediately, she was filled with fragrance. The feeling of hugging a beautiful woman was indeed wonderful. It was worth it no matter how hard she suffered. In this life, a man might be very dazzling. He might be surrounded by beautiful women. However, if the woman in his arms wasn't the woman he loved the most, then no matter how successful he would still be a failure in his heart. This was something that many people couldn't see through. At this moment, a beeping sound suddenly came from the Chinkuan bag. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out a disc-shaped instrument from the Chinkuan bag and placed it on the ground. She said, "Lulu, come out." Buzz. Three-dimensional projection technology, Lulu's image appeared in front of Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, "Brother, I'm here to report the results. I've already cultivated nearly 50 square kilometers of fertile farmland. Here, I'll show you." The image changed. It was already the grid-shaped farmland in the Tongtian Gorge. The farmland was covered with plastic greenhouses. It was a magnificent sight. Lin Muyu was stunned. So fast? Of course. You definitely haven't seen the speed at which the worker ants dig the ground. It's like lightning. Is Xiaoxi here yet? Yes, we've just arrived, so we'll start planting potatoes soon. Marshal Qian Feng said that the water source will be diverted to the fields within 3 days, across 100 miles. That's great. Lin Muyu clapped her hands. Thank you for your hard work, Lulu. It's not hard on me. It's you, brother, who looks terrible. Lulu had a worried look on her face. She looked at Qin Yin, who was beside Lin Muyu, and said, "Big brother, you have to control yourself. Although your body is the body of a god, if you use too much energy, you will still waste your essence. Lulu doesn't want to see Big Brother as thin as a stick." Ahem, what are you talking about? Lin Muyu was so embarrassed that she wanted to die. Qin Yin also understood. Her little face turned red, but she didn't know how to explain. She couldn't just tell Lulu that they hadn't started, could she? The soup is ready. I'll go get it. She hurriedly looked for an opportunity to escape. Lin Muyu was also speechless. Then that's it. Contact me if there's anything, Lulu. Okay. Goodbye, brother. The light disappeared in a flash. This communication device was quite useful. Lin Muyu could even use Lulu's celestial arch system to directly contact Qian Feng, Qin Yong, and the others who were thousands of miles away. In a sense, she already had a huge advantage. Chapter 954. On the 7th of November, heavy snowflakes fluttered in the air above the forest of no return. The ground seemed to be covered with a layer of silver robe, and it was so cold that it made people shiver. However, from the snowy land west of the forest of no return, the sound of horns, war drums, and the sound of horse hooves could be heard. The two armies had officially begun their decisive battle here. The Celestial Empire had endured for nearly half a year, and now, they had finally made their move against their strongest opponent. The armies collided with each other wave after wave. The roars of the dragons and the impact energy unleashed by the gods constantly swept up the snow on the ground. Balls of raging flames fell from the sky, and it was so hard to distinguish them from each other. The war had entered a white-hot stage as soon as it broke out. Qin Yu had sent out the strongest army of the Celestial Empire, which was also the strongest army of the Tianji Empire, the Yanji Army, which was personally commanded by the Saint Martial God, Zhang Cheng. Amidst the heavy snowfall, an old man carrying a long blade stood in mid-air with his long beard swaying slightly. The raging flames were spinning rapidly under his feet, and he was constantly waving his long blade, releasing several hundreds of meters of cold blade energy into the crowd. This man was none other than the commander-in-chief of the Tianji Empire, Shang Qian's maternal grandfather, Zhang Cheng. Although Zhang Cheng was old, he was incomparably brave and fierce. He sat proudly in the middle of the army, causing the cavalry of the Celestial Empire to attack more than 10 times in a row, but they did not achieve much. Instead, they had suffered heavy losses. 3 armies, listen to my command, hold your positions. You are the most elite soldiers of the Tianji Empire, and guarding the country is our natural mission. Killing the enemy while bathed in blood is our supreme glory. If you don't move, you will live, and if you waver, you will die. Kill them all. Zhang Cheng's voice reverberated in the air like a huge bell, and although the soldiers of the Flame Ji army had only heard Zhang Cheng's voice, but they were greatly encouraged. Each and every one of their eyes were blood red, and they brandished their weapons and fought with their opponents. Cavalry battalion, spear battalion, infantry shield battalion, archer battalion, all the battalions moved forward, but they were all crushed by the wheels of war, disappearing one by one. War was like this, killing was the price, and victory was the ultimate goal. They fought from dawn to noon, but the snow was getting heavier and heavier. Both sides were exhausted, but the Heavenly Jew Empire, with the participation of nearly 300 dragon knights, still had a slight advantage, while the Yen Ji Corps, on the other hand, was showing signs of fatigue. The catapults, the dragon hunting crossbows, and the torch stones were almost used up. The positional battle was decided by the formation and combat power. It was clear that the Yen Ji Corps' 250,000 soldiers were gradually becoming isolated under the encirclement of the enemy's 500,000 soldiers. On the snowy ground, a blood-soaked warhorse galloped over. The general on the horse had one of his arms chopped off and his face was covered in blood. With his other hand holding onto the reins, he shouted to the sky, "Great General, something bad has happened." "What's wrong?" Zhang Cheng asked coldly. "Demon spirits. The demon spirit clan has appeared. They are attacking the left army from the west side of the Forest of No Return. There are tens of thousands of demon spirits, including demon kings and demon venerables. It is said that even the demon emperor Nuslik has come. Our brothers are almost unable to hold on any longer. Everyone is exhausted. If the battle continues, it will get out of hand." Zhang Qing frowned. "The Lanji army is currently on the way to reinforce us. Once we give up the position here, it would be equivalent to handing over the eastern door of the Tianji Empire to the enemy. That brat Qin Yu will use all his tricks and schemes. He will enter the plains and start fighting with us on the vast land. At that time, the Tianji Empire will have even less chance of winning. This subordinate also knows this, but Great General, we have already lost tens of thousands of soldiers. If we continue to fight like this, I am afraid that all the brothers of the Yen Ji army will die here. Why would the demon emperor Nuslik collude with the dogs of the Celestial Empire?" Zhang Cheng was full of annoyance and asked, "General Lu, isn't Lord Zai leading the Battle Angel army and the reinforcements here? When will they arrive?" "Lord Zai's army is resting in Lingyuan County the day before yesterday. Lingyuan County is 300 miles away from here. Even with the cavalry, it will take 3 days. It seems that the Celestial Empire wants to take down our position in one go. We can't wait for that time." Zhang Qing sighed. "Forget it. To think that the Yen Ji army would have such a day. To think that I, Zhang Cheng, was praised as an invincible general by the people of the Celestial Empire. Today, I have fallen into such a situation. I have let down the Celestial Empire, I have let down the Saint Emperor. General Lu, give the order to retreat. Order the rear army, left army, and right army to retreat slowly. I will lead the middle army to bring up the rear." The general surnamed Lu hesitated for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, "Yes, this subordinate obeys." The drums of retreat sounded hurriedly. Under the curtain of snow, the soldiers of the Yen Ji army revealed a smile as if they had been pardoned. The army retreated one after another, leaving behind nearly 60,000 middle army to resist the army of the Celestial Empire. But Qin Yu obviously did not want to give the opponent any chance to breathe. The dragon riders in the sky danced wildly, the cavalry on the ground madly rushed forward. In addition to the demon spirit army on the other side, the middle army of the Yen Ji army was surrounded in the blink of an eye. This battle lasted for 1 day and 1 night. In the early morning of the next day, the snow was still falling. The entire snowfield had been dyed red, but the red snow was quickly covered by new snow. The position of the middle army of the Yen Ji army was getting smaller and smaller. From the initial few miles, it became 1 mile, and then it became a few hundred meters, until there were less than 10,000 people surrounded by the enemy. Boom! Raging flames soared into the sky. It was Zhang Cheng who had raised his long blade and swept it horizontally. The hundreds of meters long raging flame blade Qi instantly turned a group of the cavalry of the Celestial Empire into ashes. The power of a god emperor should not be underestimated, let alone Zhang Cheng, who was a level 84 Paradise God Emperor. But after a day of fierce battle, Zhang Cheng's power was not as good as before. His face was rather pale, and the hand that was holding the long blade was trembling slightly. He was left with less than 30% of his divine power. If not for the protection of the divine wall, he would have been killed by the demon heart arrows used by the opponent's dragon riders. Protect the general. Kill. The remaining power of the defeated army was not enough. But very soon, there were only a few thousand of them left. They were facing hundreds of thousands of soldiers of the Celestial Empire. Under the great disparity in strength, it seemed that the Yen-Ji army did not stand a chance. The crowd of cavalry slowly separated, and a man came out on a horse. He was dressed in a pure white robe that was whiter than snow. He looked rather handsome. He was the emperor of the Celestial Empire, Qin Yu. Beside him were Han Yuan and Liao Yang, who were in charge of protecting him. Old General Zhang Cheng. Qin Yu raised his head and looked at Zhang Cheng, who was standing proudly in the sky. He said, "You are a senior, and also an elder of the Celestial Pole continent. The three empires of the continent are originally one, and we are also one family. Why must we fight to the point of not holding anything back? Junior Qin Yu, may I be so bold as to ask old General Zhang Cheng to put down your weapons and shake hands in peace?" "How do we shake hands in peace?" Zhang Cheng's pair of turbid eyes shot out a ray of light. "Very simple." Qin Yu spread his hands and said, "Senior, put down your weapons and join the army of my Celestial Empire." Junior admires Senior's virtues and conduct, and is willing to worship you as the general of the Celestial Empire and confer the title of king. I wonder if old General is willing. Confer the title of king? Zhang Cheng's body trembled, and he laughed out loud. Qin Yu is indeed Qin Yu. You have such courage at such a young age. I have made countless contributions to the Tianji Empire, but I am only conferred the title of Marquis. In my Tianji Empire, only the descendants of the Northern Dark Royal family can be conferred the title of king. I didn't expect His Majesty Qin Yu to confer the title of king on me. Ha ha ha, this is really surprising. So, old General agrees? Qin Yu smiled in surprise. However, Zhang Cheng frowned and said coldly, "No, I refuse. Even if I have to fight to the last man, I, Zhang Cheng, will never surrender. Besides, my Zhang clan, the Shang clan, and even the people of Tianji City all praise me for being loyal and courageous. If I surrender, how am I going to face my fellow countrymen and my family with my old face?" As he spoke, the long saber in Zhang Cheng's hand was instantly burned red by the divine power. He laughed out loud and said, "Let's fight. Even if I die, I won't kneel to you bastards. You're simply too stubborn." Qin Yu frowned and said, "Continue to kill, leave no one alive." Han Yuan said, "Then, what about Zhang Cheng? He is Tianji Empire's Mount Tai and Big Dipper. If we kill Zhang Cheng, I'm afraid that old fellow Sikong Ming won't be able to sit still. I want him to be unable to sit still." Qin Yu lightly pulled out his sharp sword and said, "Kill." "Lord Han Yuan, it's up to you now. Bring Zhang Cheng's head to me." Understood. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the remnants of the Yenji army disappeared from the snowy ground. Han Yuan descended from the sky with a bloody head in his hand. He threw it down and it rolled on the snowy ground. It was the head of the white-haired Zhang Cheng. As a god emperor, he would rather die in battle than to break the void and escape. This was what made Zhang Cheng respectable. Qin Yu squinted his eyes and said coldly, "Zhang Cheng, that old fool." Han Yuan took out a sparkling and translucent godhead and said, "This is Zhang Cheng's cast immortal godhead. Your Majesty, please accept it." "No need." Chen Yu shook his head. Since Lord Han Yuan killed him, you can keep this cast immortal godhead for yourself. Why? Zhang Cheng's death seems to make your majesty unhappy. Liao Yang seemed to have noticed something. Chen Yu frowned and said, I just feel that it's a pity. A famous general like Zhang Cheng shouldn't have died in battle like this. Unfortunately, Tianji Empire doesn't have anyone capable. If there were a few more people like Zhang Cheng, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to step into Tianji Empire's territory no matter how many troops we have. Someone, bury Zhang Cheng here and build a martyr's mausoleum. Attack the county city in front of us and make it our resting place. Yes, Your Majesty. 2 days later, the news spread to Tianji City. In the main hall, all the officials were shocked. Great General Zhang Cheng really died in battle? He's a god emperor. That's right. How could such an expert die in battle? I heard that the Celestial Empire used Han Yuan and other god state experts from Tianju's sect. No wonder. The empire is in danger. Chapter 955. Be quiet. Sitting on the throne, Baiming Yuan listened to the discussions of the officials, and could not help but feel upset. Zhang Cheng and Baiming Huan were his right-hand men, but now both of them had died in battle. The Tianji Empire was no longer the strongest empire on the Heaven Pole continent, and it was declining day by day. It had become the weakest one. Let's talk about it. What should the empire do now? Baiming Yuan looked at the crowd coldly and said, the Celestial Empire is coming aggressively. The Yinji Corps on the eastern border has already been defeated. General Zhang Cheng has been loyal all his life and sacrificed his life for the empire. Who would be willing to lead the troops to fight against the Celestial Empire? The officials were silent and the generals looked at the ground. Who would dare to fight against the Celestial Empire now? The Celestial Empire was said to have 5 million soldiers. Plus, they had 400 dragon knights. Who would be able to fight against them? Most importantly, the Tianji Empire's expedition to the Shattered Cauldron world had consumed a lot of national power. Not to mention the 400,000 soldiers that died in battle, most of the money and food in the national treasury had been used up. Adding the defeat of the Yinji Corps, the Tianji Empire didn't even have 400,000 soldiers now. How could they fight against the 5 million Celestial Empire? After a while, an old general cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, Lord Zai has led nearly 50,000 soldiers to Lingyuan County City. He should be fighting against the Celestial Empire now. With the ability of Lord Zai's Radiant Angel, I'm afraid it won't be easy for the Celestial Empire to take Lingyuan County City. Besides, Chen Yu must be afraid of the Radiant Angel's identity. After all, it's not easy to fight against the Heaven Realm. Zai, Baiming Yuan sneered, King Lanji, don't forget that Zai is the Radiant Angel, the god of the Western Heaven Realm. The whole Celestial Pole continent is in the Western Heaven Realm's pocket. Do you think Lord Zai will fight against the stronger Celestial Empire to help us? King Lanji was stunned. Your Majesty, you mean Lord Zai will help no one? That's right. Lord Zai's mission in the mortal realm is to help the Celestial Pole continent destroy the Shattered Cauldron realm. Do you think he will participate in the internal war of the Celestial Pole continent? I think Lord Zai's position is definitely for us to make peace and attack the Shattered Cauldron realm together. However, this is absolutely impossible. Qin Yu has the ambition of a wolf, and his desire to destroy me is already very obvious. King Lanji said, Your Majesty, if this is the case, this humble subject suggests sending someone to the Blackstone Empire. Now, only by joining hands with the Blackstone Empire can we resist the formidable Celestial Empire. That's exactly what I was thinking. Baiming Yuan placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, It's just that. We don't know who should we send to the Blackstone Empire. I'm willing to go, King Lan Ji said in a low voice. All right, permission granted. We'll depart on the same day. As he spoke, Baiming Yuan paused for a moment, there's still one more important matter. Currently, the Empire still has the Lanji Corps, the Yenji Corps, and the local provincial garrison troops. In total, there are close to 700,000 troops. Who will lead them? If we don't resist, I'm afraid that Qin will be able to sweep through the entire territory of our empire within a month. King Lanji cupped his fists and said, "This humble subject recommends a person who will definitely be able to take on this great responsibility. Speak." Gong Shengming. Gong Shengming? Bai Ming Yuan squinted his eyes, but in the battle of the Shattered Cauldron Realm, Gong Shengming's strategy was not above that of Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the others. It was his improper command that led to the defeat of the army. In the end, all our efforts were in vain. Do you still want us to continue to put this person in an important position? King Lanji smiled faintly. "Your Majesty, although Gong Shengming is good at strategy, he was restrained by Zai, Marshal Bai Minghuan, and the others in the Battle of the Shattered Cauldron Realm. He didn't have complete decision-making power, so he was defeated. Moreover, the Shattered Cauldron Realm has been at war for many years. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Su Jiantao, and the others are all famous generals. Each of them is smart and cunning. Gong Shengming might not be able to defeat these people, but he might not necessarily be able to defeat those generals of the Celestial Empire. Your Majesty, don't forget that the Celestial Empire is the same as us. They haven't had any wars for many years, so they are impatient. Gong Shengming's defeat in the Shattered Cauldron Realm is his capital. If Your Majesty appoints a scholarly general like Gong Shengming as the marshal, the Celestial Empire will inevitably look down on us. If Your Majesty appoints a scholarly general like Gong Shengming as the marshal, the Celestial Empire will inevitably look down on us. In this way, the Tianji Empire will naturally have a chance to win." On the 10th of November, it was snowing heavily. Gong Shengming formally became the new marshal of the Tianji Empire in Tianji City. On the 11th of November, the army of the Celestial Empire encountered Zai's troops in the Lingyuan County. Just as Bai Minghuan had expected, Zai remained neutral and didn't make an enemy of any side. Instead, he advised Qinyu to stop the war and make peace, but Qinyu refused. On the 15th of November, King Lanji personally led her troops to the capital of the Blackstone Empire, Thousand Mountain City, and was personally received by Emperor Shi Yuan. In the main hall, the sound of drums and music could be heard. Although the Blackstone Empire had gone through a war, the imperial capital, Thousand Mountain City, was still filled with the scene of singing and dancing to celebrate peace. This was probably Shi Yuan's strategy to rule the country. One should enjoy life to the fullest, don't let the golden cup face the moon emptily. Moreover, King Lanji couldn't feel that the Blackstone Empire had gone through a war. He couldn't help but frown as he felt that this ally of his was very unreliable. As the envoy, King Lanji was arranged to sit very close to Shi Yuan. There were two beautiful women accompanying him, and they were both wearing light and elegant dresses. Their figures were very soft and charming. However, King Lanji's mind was completely focused on the Treaty of Alliance, so he didn't care about these beautiful women. Moreover, as a marquis, he had never lacked women. Your Majesty Bai Minghuan, have you been well recently? Shi Yuan squinted his eyes and asked with a smile. King Lanji hurriedly raised his cup and said, "Everything is well. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty." "That's good." Shi Yuan drained his cup in one gulp and said, "The Celestial Empire is coming aggressively. I have already heard the grievous news of great General Zhang Cheng's death in battle. He would rather die than surrender. He is truly a famous general." "Thank you for your praise, Your Majesty." Shi Yuan continued, "Qinyu has the ambition of a wolf." He divided his troops into two groups. One group attacked the Tianji Empire from the Forest of No Return, with a total of 1 million soldiers. The other group confronted the Blackstone Empire's army at the Jinyun Pass, with a total of 500,000 soldiers. With 500,000 strong enemies outside the pass, how could our Blackstone Empire not defend against them? Therefore, our country's 200,000 Gale Legion and the newly trained 200,000 State Guard Army are almost all stationed at the Jinyun Pass. They simply don't have time to care about the war in the Tianji Empire's territory. King Lanji's brows knit together tightly as he said, Your Majesty, you ought to know as well that once the Tianji Empire is annihilated, the next would surely be the Darkstone Empire. Qin Yu's objective is to unify the entire continent and not just a mere Tianji Empire. I naturally know. Shi Yuan pondered for a while and said, But there are no troops in the country. King Lanji should have seen it on your way here, right? Thousand Mountain City is the capital of the country, but it has less than 10,000 soldiers. At this time, I am more worried that Qin Yu will send a cavalry to the south and directly attack Thousand Mountain City. If that happens, I am afraid that my lair will be in danger. Shi Yuan burst into laughter. King Lanji had the intention to die. He really didn't know if the people of the Darkstone Empire were madmen or if they were daring because of their skills, so he could only laugh dryly and say, Your Majesty is wise and mighty, so you'll surely not be attacked by that kid, Qin Yu, from the south. I'm extremely at ease about this. However, since your esteemed empire has decided to form an alliance with my empire, could it be that you really can't send out a single military force? I really can't. Shi Yuan shook his head. I really have the heart, but I am powerless. However, I do have a way to solve the crisis of the Tianji Empire. Oh. Your Majesty, please tell me directly. Does Your Highness King Lanji know about the Baizhe mercenary group? This. I have heard a little about it. In the past 6 months, there have been rumors about the mysterious appearance and disappearance of the Baizhe mercenary group. It is said that the leader of this mercenary group is a bastard son called Lu Bai. His cultivation is average, but he has nearly 100,000 mercenaries. Moreover, they are well equipped. They can be compared to any regular army of the empire on the continent. Shi Yuan smiled faintly. Actually, it is not 100,000 people. It is 180,000 people. What? King Lanji was shocked. A mere mercenary group has 180,000 people? They don't have any income like taxes. How do they feed these 180,000 people? Your Highness, you may not know this, but the Baizhe mercenary group has already occupied 7 of my cities. Shi Yuan pounded the table and said, If I am not distracted, I will personally lead the army to destroy them. King Lanji blushed with shame. Then, Your Majesty, why did you mention the Baizhe mercenary group to me? Shi Yuan smiled. Your Highness, you may not know this, but the real mastermind behind the Baizhe mercenary group is not Lu Bai. Lu Bai's scheming, shrewdness, and strength are far from being able to create such a powerful mercenary group. Then who is it? Si Kongniao. What? King Lanji was so shocked that she sat up straight. How is this possible? Isn't Si Kongniao the granddaughter of Lord Si Kongming? How could she be the real master of the Baizhe mercenary group? However, this is the truth. Shi Yuan said, I have already pointed out the path for Your Highness. If Your Highness can invite the Baizhe mercenary group to participate in the war, these 180,000 elites can directly go north and attack the enemy together with your country's main force. Even if Qin Yu has millions of troops, he will still fail on the verge of success. Moreover, Si Kongniao is a person of your country. She has a good friend named Shang Qian. This Shang Qian's grandfather is the old General Zhang Cheng who died in the war. If King Lanji sends a letter to invite Miss Shang Qian to the Baizhe mercenary group's camp to personally invite Si Kongniao to help in the war, the great event can be expected. King Lanji's thoughts were a bit chaotic. Your Highness, do you still want to wait? Shi Yuan laughed. Come, give King Lanji a pass token so that he can freely come and go in the territory of the Blackstone Empire. King Lanji finally couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and said, There is no time to lose. Sending reinforcements is like putting out a fire. This humble king will leave first. Thank you for Your Majesty's suggestion. Then, we won't send Your Highness off. Leave. King Lanji left the banquet table with his attendants. After watching King Lanji leave, an old civil official immediately laughed and said, "Your Majesty is wise and powerful. Not only can you send off King Lanji, if he can really invite Si Kongyao, we can also kill two birds with one stone and drive away the god of plague, by Zay mercenary group. That would be great." Shi Yuan's mouth raised. "We will wait to reap the benefits." Chapter 956. On that day, a letter was sent to the north. It carried the only hope of King Baizhe and the only hope of the Tianji Empire. It seemed to be destined that only by cooperating with the Baizhe mercenary group could they save the Tianji Empire. Fortunately, the real master of the Baizhe mercenary group was Si Kongyao. As a person of the Tianji Empire, she should be able to help. On the 24th of November, the heavy snow blocked the road. However, in the heavy snow, a group of people was still coming. There were about 20 people riding on good horses of the Blackstone Empire. The horseshoes were the standard horseshoes of the Tianji Empire's army. The knight who was walking at the front had a slim figure. Although she was wearing a thick leather robe, it could still be seen that she was a graceful woman. In the heavy snow, several people raised torches on the official road. One of the guards shouted, "Are you Miss Shang Qian?" "It's me." The woman lifted her cloak. Her delicate face was very bright under the light of the torches. However, her eyes were a little red and swollen. It was obvious that she was too sad. After all, her grandfather Zhang Cheng was the head of the family. He was the backbone of the whole family. Zhang Cheng's death was a huge blow to Shang Qian. It was as if the sky had collapsed. The guard said in a low voice, "You finally came. Her Highness King Lanji is waiting for you in the post house. Rest for a night and tomorrow we will leave for the Demon Palm Prefecture. You will be able to see Miss Si Kongyao before dark." "Yao, she has been here for half a year?" "Yes, Miss Shang Qian." "Now, please follow me to see Her Highness." "Okay." Although the post house was still cold, it was much better than the wind and snow. Shang Qian entered the post house with her entourage. She immediately took off her robe that was covered with snow. The attendant in the post house quickly took out a new leather robe and put it on her. Under the escort of the crowd, this miss of the Shang family went straight into the reception hall of the post house. "Greetings, Your Highness King Lanji." Shang Qian performed a ladylike salute. King Lanji was sitting by the brazier. She stood up and said with a smile, "Miss Shang Qian has worked hard. Come and warm yourself up. The weather is too cold. I have ordered the courier house to prepare food and wine. You will soon be able to eat warm dishes." "Thank you, Your Highness." Shang Qian walked forward and sat on the chair opposite to King Lanji. Her eyes were slightly red as she said, "Your Highness, did you call me here just to persuade Yao?" "That's right." King Lanji said, "Since Miss Si Kongyao can establish a foothold in the Devil's Palm Peaks and has nearly 200,000 troops, it shows that her ambition isn't small. My Baiming family doesn't have much face. I'm afraid that we have to ask Miss Shang Qian to persuade Si Kongyao." "But, if you persuade sect leader Si Kongming, wouldn't it be more convenient?" "Miss Shang Qian." King Lanji sternly said, "The evil thieves of the Celestial Empire have invaded our border, killed our generals, and seized our cities. Shouldn't every citizen of the Tianji Empire be working for the country? Everyone knows Si Kongyao's temperament. She has always been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. I believe that in this world, besides you, no one can persuade her. Not to mention, your grandfather, General Zhang Cheng, he..." "Don't say any more." Although Shang Qian was sitting there, her body was slightly trembling. Tears were welling up in her eyes. "My grandfather is loyal to the country. I'm proud of him. Please don't say any more." King Lanji was silent for a few seconds. Then, she cupped her hands towards the sky and said, "The heavens are bright and the earth is long. General Zhang Cheng is a loyal hero. Heaven and earth can be his witness. Not only are you proud of him, but all the people of the Tianji Empire are also proud of him. Therefore, this time, we must persuade Si Kongyao to send troops. Only when Si Kongyao sends troops can we have a chance to win. Only then can we take revenge on the wolves of the Celestial Empire. Your Highness, you don't need to say any more. Since I'm here, I will certainly try my best to persuade Yao tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Shangqian, for being so understanding. Everyone was silent. After dinner, they went back to their rooms to rest. In fact, everyone had a bright light in their hearts. They didn't need to say anything. They all knew what they should do. The next day, the heavy snow stopped for the first time. They set off in the early morning. When the sun was setting in the west, they saw a towering city standing against the mountains in the distance. It was the capital of the Demon Palm Prefecture. It was the closest city to the Demon Palm Peaks. Therefore, it became the new lair of the Baizé mercenaries. When they were 5 miles away from the city, they were intercepted by a group of cavalrymen dressed in white robes. There were about 100 of them, and every one of them wore a badge embroidered with a white mythological beast on their shoulders. That was the symbol of the Baizé mercenaries. Who are you? How dare you break into the Baizé mercenary station? The centurion pulled out his sharp sword. The blade was shining with the golden light of the setting sun. King Lan Ji frowned. The strength of this centurion had reached the realm of the heaven realm. Moreover, the horses of this group of cavalrymen were steeds with great endurance and leg strength. Each cavalryman was wearing an iron armor that weighed more than 50 kilograms. Even the sides of the horses were covered with armor. There was a heavy round shield hanging on the back of the horses. King Lan Ji couldn't help but think of a word: heavy cavalry. That's right, these 100 people were all heavy cavalry. King Lan Ji couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The financial resources of the Baizé mercenaries could be seen from this. There were not many armies in the entire celestial pole continent that could be equipped with such a complete set of heavy cavalry. Even the main forces like the Lan Ji Corps and the Yen Ji Corps only had 10 to 20,000 heavy cavalry at most. However, what qualifications did the Baizé mercenaries have to have heavy cavalry? Heavy cavalry, the trump card of the plains. They weren't afraid of arrows and crossbow bolts. It seemed that there was really hope. Therefore, King Lan Ji cupped his fists and said, "I am the left prince of the Tianji Empire, King Lan Ji. This is the young lady of the Shang family, Shang Qian. She is a good friend of the master of your Baizé mercenaries, Miss Si Kongyao. I have come to pay a visit to Miss Si Kongyao. Please take us to her." "You are Miss Shang Qian?" The centurion was stunned. Then, he raised his sword and cupped his fists and said, "Please come with me. Miss is in the city. She said that there are 2 people who came to see her. You don't need to report and you can directly take them to see her. Miss Shang Qian is one of them." "Thank you." Shang Qian squeezed out a smile and urged her horse to follow a group of heavy cavalry to the Devil's Palm Prefecture. Then, she asked unwillingly, "General, may I ask who the other person is?" The centurion smiled. "The former Qin king of the Shattered Cauldron realm, the current marshal of the Qin Empire, Madame Lin Muyu." Lin Muyu. Shang Qian pursed her red lips. She couldn't help but feel a sense of loss in her heart. Lin Muyu's heroic appearance appeared in her mind. Yes, it was that person who defeated Bai Minghuan and Bailey Qin in the Shattered Cauldron realm. It was also this person who caused the entire celestial pole continent to fall into chaos. Shang Qian was a little regretful. If she had taken the initiative back then, perhaps she could have kept this person, right? However, she changed her mind and smiled. How could that be possible? Would such an unruly and ambitious person stop for a woman? Probably not. After entering the Devil's Palm Prefecture, the Baizé mercenaries could be seen everywhere in this prefecture city. There were heavy cavalry, mounted archers, long spear soldiers, heavy shield soldiers, sword soldiers, and so on. The distinctions were clear, and the formations were strict. How could this be a mercenary group? They were simply much more elite than a regular army. King Lanji looked around while walking, and the more he looked, the colder he felt. A mere mercenary group could have such a fighting strength. It seemed that the era of the Tianji Empire was indeed about to pass. If they didn't seek flexibility, they would eventually be replaced. He clenched his fists, and suddenly a crazy idea came into his mind. Regardless of whether the Baizé mercenaries could send out troops or not, as long as the Celestial Empire was defeated, the Baizé mercenaries absolutely couldn't be left alive. Otherwise, it would inevitably become a big problem for the Tianji Empire. Please come in. There were also city gates in the city. After King Lanji, Shang Qian and the others passed through 2 city gates, they finally arrived at the so-called General's Mansion, the core area of the Baizé mercenaries. In front of the General's Mansion, there were 2 lifelike carvings of giant beasts. It seemed as if they would break out of the stone at any time and devour everything. They were incomparably majestic. On both sides, there were imperial guards with swords. Each and every one of them were wearing armors and were looking straight ahead. The military law of the Baizé mercenaries was even stricter than that of the Yanji Corps. Is this the masterpiece of Yao in the past 6 months? Shang Qian said to himself. It was somewhat unbelievable. But at this time, a graceful figure appeared at the end of the stairs of the General's Mansion. It was Si Kong Yao, who was wearing a military uniform. The leather soft armor that outlined her exquisite figure was incomparably enchanting. When she saw Shang Qian, she suddenly smiled. Her smile was as brilliant as a mountain flower. Sister Shang Qian, why are you here? Shang Qian smiled. She stepped forward and hugged Si Kong Yao. On the contrary, King Lanji, the left prince, was given the cold shoulder. He was not greeted until he entered the General's Mansion's meeting hall. Perhaps it was not a greeting at all. Because the seemingly unremarkable Liu Bai did not seem to care about him at all. Cough cough. King Lanji could not help but cough twice. Only then did Shang Qian say, Yao, Bai, this is King Lanji, the left prince of the Tianji Empire. This time, he came with me to discuss the covenant with you. Covenant? Si Kongyao's eyes widened. Yes. Shang Qian's eyes turned red. The Celestial Empire invaded. Grandfather unfortunately died in battle. He sacrificed his life for the country. The 900,000 troops of the Celestial Empire have already entered the plains west of the Forest of No Return. They will attack East Peace City in a few days. Once they attack East Peace City, I'm afraid the imperial capital will be in danger. Sister Shang Qian, don't be so anxious. Si Kongyao comforted her. The dead cannot come back to life. Grandfather Zhang Cheng was a hero all his life. Perhaps staining the battlefield with his blood and killing the enemy is what he wanted. Perhaps. Shang Qian's eyes turned red. Yao, you are a citizen of the Tianji Empire. You are also the granddaughter of old sect master Sikong. The Tianji Empire is your motherland, your hometown. I beg you, you must send troops. Only by defeating the army of the Celestial Empire can you save your homeland and avenge my grandfather. I know. Si Kongyao bit her red lips. But sending troops is a serious matter. I still need to discuss it with the generals and commoners. This matter, seeing her hesitation, King Lanji said anxiously, Miss Si Kongyao, you must send troops. You are the only hope of the Tianji Empire. If you don't send troops, I'm afraid the Tianji Empire will soon fall apart and become a meal for the Celestial Empire. Liu Bai raised his eyebrows. The Tianji Empire belongs to the Tianji Empire. The Baizé mercenaries belong to the Baizé mercenaries. We are not a family. I don't care if you are a meal or lunch meat. Whether the Tianji Empire is destroyed or not, what does it have to do with the Baizé mercenaries? The Tianji Empire used 400,000 soldiers to attack the broken cauldron world, which made Lin Muyu miserable. Liu Bai regarded Lin Muyu as his brother. Naturally, he hated the Tianji Empire very much. As soon as Lu Bai spoke, the group of fierce captaincy said in unison, "That's right. Whether the Tianji Empire is destroyed or not, what does it have to do with us? You make it sound so nice, but when did the Tianji Empire treat Miss Si Kongyao well? Why don't we see the emperor conferring the title of duke to Miss Si Kongyao?" King Lanji's face was ashen, but he couldn't lose his temper. If he lost his temper here, he would die miserably. These 18 captaincy were not easy to deal with. Chapter 957. You really can't help us? Shang Qian looked at Si Kongyao with red eyes and said, "Why not?" Yao. Si Kongyao was very soft-hearted towards her best friend. She held Shang Qian's shoulder and said, "It's not that I can't help, but I still need to discuss with everyone. I don't have the final say in the Baizhe mercenary group. It's easy to say, but it's related to the future of the 180,000 people in the Baizhe mercenary group. I have to be cautious. Sister, don't worry. Give me some time, okay?" "Okay." Shang Qian slightly nodded. However, Lu Bai had already stood up. His face was full of determination. He said lightly, No discussion." Lu Bai. King Lanji pounded the table and stood up. "Are you the one who has the final say in the Baizhe mercenary group or Miss Si Kongyao? Don't be so aggressive. Don't forget, you are also a citizen of the West Mountain province of the Tianji Empire." "Really?" Lu Bai smiled faintly, "But I don't remember the empire giving me any favor. Everyone wants to beat me and look down on me. Tell me, why should I work for such a country?" You what?" Lu Bai punched the table, making the tea set fly up. He said, "In the past 6 months, we have been expanding. We have eliminated and merged more than 90% of the mercenary groups in the Blackstone Empire. We have also trained and eliminated inferior soldiers. What is it for? Is it to work for a noble like you?" As he spoke, the veins on Lu Bai's face bulged. He laughed and said, "Dream on. I am not your subject, and you are not my master. When my fist is bigger than yours and I have more military power than yours, why would I not become the emperor and kneel to a despicable person like you?" King Lanji was so angry that her whole body was trembling, but she couldn't say anything. Si Kongyao said faintly, "Lu Bai, speak less. What if you make Her Highness King Lanji angry?" Lu Bai respectfully took a step back and knelt on one knee. His right fist naturally landed on the ground. He saluted and said, "Yes, I understand." Shang Qian was stunned. However, King Lanji's eyes shone brightly. He could see that Lu Bai's salute wasn't the salute of the celestial pole continent, but the standard military salute of the Shattered Cauldron realm. Moreover, along the way, he also discovered that the etiquette followed by the Baizhe mercenaries was basically the same as the Qin Empire's army. "You," King Lanji's face turned ashen as he said, "You are from the Shattered Cauldron realm? Are you Lin Muyu's people?" Lu Bai smiled and nodded, "Yes, we are Qin Emperor Lin Muyu's people. We held it in for half a year and didn't say it out. Now, I suddenly feel so carefree." Si Kongyao raised the corner of her mouth. "Lu Bai, you talk too much." King Lanji retreated several steps, his face a little pale. "Why? Why even Miss Si Kongyao betrayed the motherland? Why? Why? Did I betray the motherland?" Si Kongyao asked back with a smile, "Your Highness, did I kill an innocent citizen of the Tianji Empire? Did I invade an inch of the Tianji Empire's land? I just established an army in the Blackstone Empire with my own ability. How can you say that I betrayed the country? Just now, I was thinking about using my people to reinforce the Tianji Empire. How can you say that I, Si Kongyao, betrayed the country? You. King Lanji was an influential figure in the imperial palace, but at this moment, he didn't know what he was talking about. Si Kongyao pursed her red lips and said, "Actually, the Tianji Empire is my homeland. I can't not save it. However, not all of the 180,000 people under my command are from the Tianji Empire. I can't let them sacrifice their lives to fight in vain. So, for the sake of Sister Shang Qian's face, I agree to send troops. Really? Shang Qian was overjoyed. King Lanji was also stunned. Miss, are you serious? Yes, but don't worry. I have conditions. What conditions? Please tell me. Si Kongyao moved her red lips. Her pair of intelligent eyes were full of moving expression. She smiled and said, first of all, if I send 180,000 Baizhe mercenaries to the north to reinforce the country, the Blackstone Empire will definitely make a move. They have long held a grudge against the Baizhe mercenaries. Once the Baizhe mercenaries leave the northern pass, they will definitely seal the door and won't let the Baizhe mercenaries come back. So, this also means, the Baizhe mercenaries are walking on a road of no return. The Baizhe mercenaries have 7 big cities in the territory of the Blackstone Empire and collect taxes on their own. But once we go to the north, what will we get? King Lanji muttered to himself. His heart felt a bit cold. After not seeing her for 3 years, Si Kongyao was no longer that beautiful girl who only knew how to cultivate and fight. The current Si Kongyao not only had unfathomable strength, but her wisdom was also not the same as before. He frowned and said, before this king left, His Majesty had already given me some authority to make decisions. If young miss has anything to say, please speak frankly. Okay. Si Kongyao smiled knowingly and said, in fact, it's very simple. Once the Baizhe mercenaries enter the territory of the Tianji Empire, I need a place to stand. I don't want to become the target of public criticism after the war. As the saying goes, once the cunning hare is killed, the hound will be cooked. My meaning. King Lanji should understand very well. I understand. King Lanji pondered for a while and said, Miss, the route of your army must be going out of the northern pass and passing through the West Mountain province. Then, they will attack the army of the Celestial Empire in the East Peace province. Then, I can decide on behalf of His Majesty to divide the 7 states and counties in the south of the West Mountain province to the Baizhe mercenaries. You can station in the cities. The local prefectures will also directly hand over the collected taxes to Miss, so as to supply the Baizhe mercenaries. Only 7 states and counties? Si Kongyao couldn't help but laugh. Your Highness, with all due respect, the Baizhe mercenaries have a total of 180,000 people. Half of them are cavalrymen. If each person is equipped with 2 blades, there will be a total of 360,000 weapons and 360,000 sets of armor. Even if there are at least 100,000 grooms, I'm afraid that a trifling 7 states and counties can't support such a huge army. Your Highness, don't forget that we are mercenaries. The reason why we could survive in the Blackstone Empire was because we plundered everywhere. Does Your Highness want us to plunder everywhere in the Tianji Empire? Even 7 states and counties can't do it? Then, how much does eldest miss want? King Lanji's eyes sparkled. Si Kongyao nodded and smiled shyly. Actually, Shiping City, the capital of the Xishan province, is also one of the famous cities in the continent. It has abundant taxes and a strong city. If Your Highness doesn't mind, Yao is willing to guard Shiping City for the Empire. What? King Lanji was shocked. The Baizhe mercenaries want Shiping City? Why? Can't we? Lu Bai raised his eyebrows and said. The 18 captaincy held a meeting and stood up together. What? You can't even do it, yet you still want us to send troops and sell our lives for you? Under the great power, King Lanji's imposing manner suddenly weakened. He gradually understood that ever since he and Shang Qian had stepped into the general's mansion, they had fallen into a trap. Lu Bai and Si Kongyao were obviously performing a 2-man show. And he only realized it now, but it was too late. Si Kongyao's smile was very sweet. She said, Your Highness, you can decide on your own. However, Yao wants to remind you that if you grant me Shiping City, the Tianji Empire might get peace. But if you don't grant me Shiping City, the Tianji Empire won't just lose Shiping City. Perhaps Dongming City, Huiyuan City, Tianji City, will soon become Qin Yu's temporary imperial residence. King Lanji took a deep breath and said with a deathly pale face, "Let me think about it. After all, Shiping City is a provincial capital. It's not something that I, a small left prince, can decide. Maybe I need to report to His Majesty and get His Majesty's approval." Si Kongyao smiled faintly and said, "That's good. We will wait for Your Highness's reply at the Devil's Palm Peaks. But I don't know if Dongming City can withstand the attack of Qin Yu's army. Even if they spur their horses at full speed, it will take more than 10 days for Your Highness to come and go from Tianji City. Please think twice." King Lanji became silent and sat there dejectedly. After a long while, he raised his head and said, "I have the royal order given by His Majesty. I can decide on my own. If Miss Si Kongyao wants it, I will grant you Shiping City and the 7 southern prefectures and counties of Xishan Province as your fief." "That won't do." Si Kongyao stretched her arms lazily and said, "There are 7 southern prefectures and counties of Shiping City and 7 northern prefectures and counties. My soldiers are used to plundering. Once I can't control my hands and feet and attack the 7 northern prefectures and counties, won't it be like my own people attacking my own people? In my opinion, Your Highness might as well reward me with the 7 northern prefectures and counties." King Lanji trembled all over and said, You want the entire territory of Xishan Province? Is there a problem?" Si Kongyao's beautiful eyes turned cold. Suddenly, her momentum surged and she had the feeling of a monarch descending to the world. King Lanji's voice trembled. "No, if I give you all the fief, I'm afraid His Majesty will punish me. If you don't agree, then forget it." Si Kongyao crossed her arms and put her slender legs on the table. She said, "Anyway, it's not bad for a mercenary like Bai Zhe to be a mercenary king here. I can eat and drink well and loot the treasuries of government offices everywhere. Even the dog emperor of the Blackstone Empire won't dare to provoke me." Shang Qian saw that the situation was a little stiff and said, "Your Highness, in my opinion, Ya wants Xishan Province as her fief. Then, you should reward it to her. At the same time, you can also confer the title of Xishan Princess to Yao. Anyway, Yao is a citizen of the empire. Why can't she rule Xishan Province? In this way, you can also justify yourself in front of His Majesty." King Lanji's heart brightened. He said, "That's right. I don't know if Miss Si Kongyao is willing to accept the title of Xishan Princess. I don't care." Si Kongyao smiled lazily and said, "But I have a condition. Although Tianji Empire will give me the title of Xishan Princess, I won't serve the emperor. My army will still be controlled by me. In addition, I won't pay money and grain to the imperial capital for my fief. All the officials will be enfeoffed by me." "You are..." King Lanji felt a chill in the bottom of his heart. "Miss Si Kongyao, are you going to divide your territory and confer the title of king?" "Yes, that's right." Si Kongyao admitted frankly, "I just want to have my own territory, and I will no longer obey the rule of any emperor. However, if you make me the commandery princess of Shiping, then I will still be nominally a citizen of the Tianji Empire. At least King Lanji will be able to convince Bai Mingyuan. Deceiving the superiors and the subordinates is what you people are good at, isn't it? In short, whether you want Xishan Province or the whole Tianji Empire, it's up to you. I won't interfere with your decision." Everyone was silent. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, King Lanji said faintly, "I will send a letter back to Tianji City to ask for a decree. The wolf falcon flies fast. It will only take 3 days to go back and forth. Miss Si Kongyao, please wait for the conferment." "Good." Si Kongyao was complacent. She smiled knowingly with Lu Bai and others. Chapter 958. Late at night, the cold moon hung high in the sky. In the small courtyard, Si Kongyao was dressed in military attire. She held a silver wine pot in her left hand and a golden cup in her right. She sat alone on the railing of the small courtyard and drank alone. As the wine entered her heart, there was a hint of helplessness in her beautiful eyes. She said, "I wonder how Big Brother Yu is doing. If we really go to the northern region to fight, neither I nor Lu Bai will be able to strategize. How should we fight this war?" The cold moon did not respond. Si Kongyao drank another cup of wine and muttered, "I don't know what grandfather is thinking. Since the empire is being attacked by Qin Yu's army, the Tianji sect should also participate in the war, right? If I bring the Bai Zhe mercenaries to participate in the war and fight side by side with him, will grandfather forgive me for leaving home for so long?" She laughed self-deprecatingly. "Forget it, grandfather doesn't want to care about me anyway. I'll just live my own life. I just don't know how Big Brother Yu is doing." A howling cold wind came from the sky. Si Kongyao seemed to feel a little cold and couldn't help but tighten her clothes. She looked at the sky with a slight frown and said, "The news should have come back by now." At this moment, the power of the laws in the surroundings suddenly surged. Drops of light condensed in front of Si Kongyao and finally turned into a ray of light that fell to the ground and condensed into a human figure. It was Lin Muyu. It was the oracle's spiritual sense. "Big Brother Yu." Si Kongyao was overjoyed and said with a smile, "You finally took the initiative to contact me, Yao." Lin Muyu looked at Si Kongyao's lovely appearance and said with a smile, "Long time no see, Yao. The war in the Shattered Cauldron realm is endless, so I can't divide my divine power to see you. Now that things have just stabilized, I haven't received any news about the Bai Zhe mercenaries for many days. How is it?" Si Kongyao pursed her red lips and shook her head. "It's not good. 1,000,000 troops of the Celestial Empire attacked the eastern camp of the Tianji Empire. The Yinji army was defeated and even General Zhang Qing died in battle." "What? Shang Qian's grandfather died in battle?" "Yes." Si Kongyao nodded and said, "Now that the Tianji Empire has no generals to use, they are retreating step by step. Qin Yu's 1,000,000 troops will soon conquer the East Com province. At that time, the Tianji city will be directly under the enemy's vanguard and there will be no turning back. Yesterday, Big Sister Shang Qian and King Lan Ji came to our Demon Palm Prefecture and asked Bai Zhe mercenaries to send reinforcements to the Tianji Empire. Big Brother Yu, what do you think?" I've already agreed. There's no problem with sending troops." Lin Muyu looked at Si Kongyao with torch-like eyes and said, "I also don't want the Tianji Empire to be destroyed so quickly. Once Qin Yu devours the Tianji Empire, with his appetite, he will immediately destroy the Blackstone Empire within 3 months. At that time, the celestial pole continent will be unified. This emperor will want more meritorious service and will naturally attack the Shattered Cauldron realm. For the time being, the Shattered Cauldron realm still needs time and can't continue to participate in the war. However, Yao, do you have any conditions for agreeing to send troops to King Lanji just like that?" "Of course there are." Si Kongyao burst into laughter and said, "I've already asked the Tianji Empire to confer me the title of Shiping Princess. Then, I'll bestow the entire Xishan province, including Shiping City, to the Bai Zhe mercenaries as the resting place for the 180,000 troops of the Bai Zhe mercenaries. They can also continuously provide us with ordnance and provisions. What do you think, Elder Brother Yu?" Lin Muyu smiled happily and said, "Yes, that's right. The Bai Zhe mercenaries will only be useful when they have their own cities. You have to take advantage of this heaven-sent opportunity to expand without restraint. What we want is not just the Xishan province. Once we've defeated the army of the Celestial Empire, we'll take advantage of this opportunity to conquer the south in the name of mercenaries and plunder the land of the Blackstone Empire." "I know, but Yao is now facing a huge problem." "Oh? What problem? Tell me." "I lack a commander with both wisdom and courage like Elder Brother Yu." Si Kongyao blinked her eyes and said, "Lu Bai and our generals have almost never experienced a real war. They only know how to talk on paper. Once a war breaks out, who will we rely on to command the overall situation? You have to know that Shin Yu has 900,000 troops and more than 300 dragon knights. If the 180,000 Baizhe mercenaries directly participate in the war, they'll just be throwing their lives away. Oh, Lin Muyu muttered to herself and thought for a long time before saying, it seems that I'll have to go to the celestial pole continent for the second time. Yao, when will you leave? I'll come over after dealing with the matters in the Shattered Cauldron realm. If the Emperor of the Tianji Empire allows it, the Baizhe mercenaries will leave in 2 days and reach Shiping City in 5 days. Then wait for me at the City Lord's residence in Shiping City in 5 days. I'll be there on time. Okay, I'll wait for you. Si Kong Yao giggled. I haven't seen you in a long time. I miss you. Lin Muyu was stunned. Si Kong Yao immediately smiled knowingly and said, I know that elder brother Yu already has Her Highness Qin Yin, but as your younger sister, it shouldn't be too much for Yao to miss you, right? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. It's not too much. I miss you too. Let's meet in 5 days. Alright, I have to go. I've used up a lot of my divine power and can't hold on any longer. Okay, elder brother Yu, see you in 5 days. After ending the conversation with the oracle, Lin Muyu was already drenched in sweat. The distance from Lanyan City to the Devil's Palm Prefecture was more than 10,000 miles. Moreover, she had never used spiritual thoughts to communicate for such a long time. She had used up at least 30% of her divine power. Even though Lin Muyu's cultivation had reached the 53rd level of Grotto Heaven, it was still very difficult. How's it going with the Baizhe mercenaries? Qin Yin, who was lying quietly beside Lin Muyu, opened her blazing dawn eyes a little. It's not a big deal. The Celestial Empire and the Tianji Empire have started a war. The Tianji Empire is no match for them, so they sent King Lanji to ask for help from Si Kong Yao, asking for 180,000 Baizhe mercenaries to help. However, no one on Yao's side is good at commanding, so I might have to go to the Celestial Pole continent. On the other side, Tang Xiaoxi, who was holding Lin Muyu's left hand tightly, was a little surprised. You want to go to the Celestial Pole continent? Yes, Xiaoxi, your internal injuries are almost healed. I need to go there. After all, I left Si Kong Yao and Lu Bai there, so I have to be responsible for them. Moreover, the Baizhe mercenaries are very important to the Empire. They are an important chess piece for us to counterattack the Celestial Pole continent, which is equivalent to our advance army. Isn't it too dangerous? Qin Yin blinked her eyes and said, the people from the Celestial Empire and the Tianji Empire are not easy to deal with. Si Kongming, Han Yuan, Longxi, and the others are all consummate god emperors above the 90th level of Grotto Heaven. Once elder brother Yu is targeted by them, I'm afraid you will be in danger. It's better. Xiaoxi and I go with you. If we go together, it will be more dangerous. There will be no one in Lanyan City. Aren't General Feng and Yen there? Qin Yin explained, besides, all the major events in the country are basically decided by the Congress. Military affairs can wait for you to come back. I talked with Uncle Qin Shao for a long time yesterday afternoon. He revealed his true feelings and doesn't want to be controlled by the feudal princes of the Congress. So even if I'm not in Lanyan City, nothing will happen. On the contrary, it's too dangerous for you to go to the Celestial Pole continent alone. Isn't it better for me and Xiaoxi to go with you? Tang Xiaoxi also smiled faintly and said, that's right. Didn't we agree that the three of us will not be separated in the future? It's fine if we don't separate. Lin Muyu was a little helpless. We'll leave in 3 days. We'll go to the Tongtian Gorge to see the potato garden planted by Lulu first. Then we'll fly to the Celestial Pole continent to meet Si Kong Yao and Lu Bai. Well, that's for the best. I'll also explain the matters in the court. Shengguan Jingyue will handle the small matters for me. What about Terlin and the others? They're in closed-door training and won't come out for 2 or 3 months. I'm thinking that when the time is right, I'll send them back to the Western Divine Realm. After all, that's where they belong. It's just that I can't sense Sister Hyan's aura recently. Qin Yin frowned and said, I don't know what happened in the Western Divine Realm. Lin Muyu held her shoulders and said, Don't worry, Xiao Yin. Shi Yan is a seraph and a great perfection divine emperor of 99 heavens, a legendary seraph. She will be fine. At least no one in East Heaven can kill her. Those who can kill her won't, unless it's ruler Claude, but Claude won't. Who will cut off their own arms? Yeah. Lin Muyu's words made Qin Yin feel a bit more at ease. She raised her head and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, Big brother you, after we unify the world, we must go to the Western Divine Realm to look for Sister Hyan. I owe her too much. I also owe her a favor. Lin Muyu nodded and said, She sent you back. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to see you again. Yeah, 2 days later, a wolf falcon landed in the county city of Demon Palm Prefecture. After a long time, King Lanji respectfully held an imperial edict and went to the general's mansion. Meanwhile, Shang Qian and a group of attendants looked solemn. Seeing the imperial edict was like seeing the martial saint emperor, Bai Ming Yuan. They had to be respectful, even if they had to pretend. Si Kong Yao receives the imperial edict. King Lanji's voice became much louder. Inside the general's mansion, Si Kong Yao, Lu Bai, and the others naturally knew what had happened. They all knelt down. King Lanji said in a clear voice, The emperor decrees that Si Kong Yao is conferred the title of Shiping Commandery Princess and Xishan Province's chief executive. She will be in charge of all the troops in Xishan Province, as well as all the land, taxes, and treasuries in Xishan Province. At the same time, Baizei's mercenaries are conferred the title of National Defense Army. Si Kong Yao is ordered to immediately lead the National Defense Army to Shiping City to rest and reorganize. In a few days, they will set off to the north to assist East Com City. Si Kong Yao lowered her head, raised her hand and said, I. Si Kong Yao receives the imperial edict. King Lanji handed the imperial edict to Si Kong Yao and said with a smile, Miss Si Kong, from now on, we are colleagues. You are a commandery king. I hope we can work together to defeat the strong enemy. Of course. Si Kong Yao glanced at the imperial edict and said, But why is the Baizei's mercenaries called the National Defense Army? I have never agreed to this. So, the flag of the Baizei's mercenaries is still the Baizei's mercenaries. It will never be changed. Miss, don't worry. His Majesty won't pursue this detail. As long as you can send troops, it will be fine. Saying this, King Lanji seemed to be a little anxious and said, When shall we leave? Si Kong Yao smiled faintly and said, The 3 armies are ready. We will leave in the afternoon. Good, that's great. Chapter 959. On the 29th of November, the weather became colder and colder. Winter had officially arrived. The entire Tongtian Gorge was covered in snow, and the entire gorge seemed to be frozen. Accompanied by the sound of falling snow, 3 figures landed on a piece of fertile land. It was Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi. Not far away, a few high-level demons dressed in the Empire's military uniforms shouted in unison, Who is it? It's me. Lin Muyu turned around, and the 4-star insignia on her neck shone brightly. The group of demons all bowed respectfully. Qian Feng, the governor of 8 Desolate Province, was only a 3-star, but this person in front of them was actually a 4-star. His identity was obvious. So it's Lin General. Greetings, Lin General. A Chiliarch said respectfully, and then his gaze fell on the 2 beauties beside Lin Muyu. Oh, they are Royal Highness Yin and Princess Shi. Ah. The Chiliarch knelt for the 2nd time. This subordinate has eyes but failed to see. Greetings, Royal Highness Yin and Princess Shi. Where's Marshal Qian Feng? Qin Yin asked. This subordinate will inform the marshal immediately. The horse disappeared into the snow. Not long after, Qian Feng's figure broke through the air, and he smiled respectfully. "You're here?" "Yes." "Show us the plantation, Marshal Qianfeng." Qin Yin smiled. "Yes, Your Highness, this way please." The four of them flew close to the ground. The water in the ditch had already frozen, but the water underneath was still rapid. After crossing the river, there was an entire plantation in front of them. It was all plastic sheds, and the sheds were about a meter high. Even if humans bent their bodies, it would be difficult for them to squeeze in. However, it was different for the worker ants. They could come and go as they pleased. Opening one of the sheds, Lin Muyu looked down and saw that the potato germs inside were about 20 centimeters high. They were lush, and she couldn't help but smile. "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, look, there are results." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, one on the left and one on the right, nestled in his arms. They looked down at the sheds and immediately smiled. Although they were just seedlings, it meant that they could provide a very large amount of food resources for the empire. At least, the three armies would no longer have to fight on empty stomachs. In Lin Muyu's eyes, these potatoes would be the strongest guarantee for the counterattack on the celestial pole continent. But, it's snowing so heavily now, can they still survive? Tang Xiaoxi's heart ached as she sealed the entrance of the shed, for fear that these seedlings would freeze to death. Lin Muyu said, "Didn't you see the worker ants in the shed? They are responsible for maintaining the temperature and moisture, and even if it snows, it can't keep snowing. When the snow stops and the sky clears up, the worker ants will naturally sweep away the snow and let the sun shine in. As long as there is enough sunlight and moisture, they can produce a lot of potatoes no matter how cold it is." "That's really great." Tang Xiaoxi stood up straight, looked at the endless plantation in the distance, and said, "So many, of course." Lin Muyu said proudly, "A total of 200 li of fertile land." "Marshal Qianfeng, can you calculate for Xiao Shi how much food can be harvested from this 200 li of land in a season?" Qianfeng was stunned, and said, "Lin General, this subordinate is not a farmer, how would I know these things?" On the other hand, Qin Yin smiled and said, "Although it's 200 li, there are many mountains and rivers, and the area of the plantation is about 8,000 hectares. 1 hectare is 100 mu, and if 1 mu is 200 caddies of output, then 8,000 hectares of land in a season will produce 16 million caddies of output. According to the Empire's rations calculation, 100 caddies is equivalent to 1 dan of military rations. One season can produce 1.6 million dan of military rations, which is about enough for 800,000 soldiers to eat for a month." "Wow, Xiao Yin is so amazing." Tang Xiaoxi's mouth was wide open. She knew that she did not have this kind of calculation ability. Lin Muyu frowned, and said, "It seems, it's still too little. One season of potato planting will take at least 2 months, and the plantation here can only provide food for 400,000 soldiers. Our empire's regular army, not including the imperial army, has 500,000 soldiers. Moreover, after the war, the number of refugees increased dramatically, and all the treasuries have to allocate food to help the refugees, but it's still not enough. Marshal Qianfeng. This subordinate is here. Lin General, please give your orders. Discuss with Lulu again, and send more worker ants to cultivate and plant on the plains of Tongtian province, the more the better." "Yes." Qianfeng nodded, and said, "But Lin General, you can't be too optimistic, because the plantation needs a large amount of plastic, and there isn't much of it. Lulu said that it's almost used up, and if you want new ones, you'll need time to make them." "I know, just do your best." "Yes." Qianfeng nodded with a smile, and said, "The taste of potatoes is incomparably delicious, why don't Lin General, Her Highness Yin, and Princess Shi eat here today, and this subordinate will arrange a pot of potato meat soup, how about it?" "All right, I also asked the marshal to arrange a place for us to stay. We'll stay for the night, and leave tomorrow." "Yes, understood." At night, the cold wind was biting cold, and Qianfeng ordered people to set up a huge tent at the edge of the plantation. Although it was cold outside, a fire was lit in the tent, and a large pot of soup was cooked. Moreover, it was Qianfeng who personally cooked the soup. There were potato pieces, fish, venison, vegetables, and many others in the pot, and there was also a lot of chili and pepper, which made Lin Muyu secretly sigh. Qianfeng was also a master of Sichuan hot pot, and if he stepped into the God Emperor realm and traveled to Earth, wouldn't it be terrible? Once this fellow went to Chengdu, wouldn't he be able to make a name for himself? The soup in the pot was gurgling, and Qianfeng dismissed the people on his left and right. There were only 4 people in the tent, plus 2 high-level demon girls who were scouts. Lin Muyu was a little surprised. I didn't expect there were actually high-level female demons in the demon race. I've only seen Her Highness Ning, and Her Highness Jing, before. Qianfeng smiled awkwardly, and said, most of the god race women's physiques aren't suitable for cultivating demonic arts, so if they aren't the descendants of famous families, most of them will be reduced to maids or concubines of others. Lin Muyu nodded. The farming and weaving of the Central Plains has now been introduced to the Sky Gorge. Marshal Qianfeng, why don't you give them proper jobs, and let them earn their own living, so that they won't always be attached to men, and lose the social status they deserve? Social status? Qianfeng was surprised. Lin Muyu smiled, and said, in my hometown, the status of men and women has always been equal, and even, cough cough, women are a level higher, and you can't even bare your teeth when they get angry at you. At the side, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. Qianfeng said, there's really such a thing? Yes, all living beings are equal, there's nothing we can do. Qianfeng immediately cupped his fists, and said, this subordinate understands, and will carry out this policy. As long as the people of the god race can live a peaceful and quiet life, even if I, Qianfeng, die, I will still be able to answer to His Majesty the late Emperor, Jing, and Ning, A purple-eyed demon maid at the side pursed her red lips, and suddenly said cautiously, Your Highness Lin General, can this little girl say something? Yes. Qin Yin nodded. Lin Muyu said cheerfully, just say it, Mississippi Marshal Qianfeng is also here, anyone can make a decision for you. The girl said, as Lin General said, it would be good if men and women could be equal. My 3 sisters are all married to the same person. He is a lord of the Sky Gorge, and he has a violent temperament. It's a pity that my sisters are whipped every day. Each of them is covered with cuts and bruises, but they have no way to seek justice. In our god race, the status of women has always been like this. I hope that a word from Your Highness and Lin General can change everything. Lin Muyu looked deeply at Qianfeng, and said, is it true? Qianfeng blushed with shame. Yes, the god race has always been like this. The shattered cauldron realm can't keep fighting. Marshal Qianfeng, you must send people to the Middle Earth to learn farming and weaving techniques. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the women of the devil race will never be able to change their fates. In addition, set up an official in the 8 Desolates province, enforce the constitution, and govern the province according to the law. This will save you a lot of trouble, and the unfairness in the 8 Desolates province will be greatly reduced. Just like what happened to this girl's elder sisters, according to the law, the man who whipped his wife should receive 100 lashes. Qianfeng nodded, yes, I understand. Please rest assured, Lin General and Your Highness, I will do as you say. That's good. The girl at the side bowed deeply, thank you, Lin General, you're welcome. The soup is ready. Qianfeng smiled, come, serve it to Your Highness and Princess Shi. Here, I have prepared a jar of good wine. Let's not go home until we're drunk. Okay. Lin Muyu was grateful for Qianfeng's trust in her. If it wasn't for the delay of the Tongtian Gorge, the Tianji Empire would have conquered Tianshu Province and Sangnan Province long ago. Every factor in this war was very important, and Qianfeng was one of the important factors. As the wine entered his heart, Qianfeng's expression was no longer as carefree as before. Instead, it was more painful. He held his sword and said, the war destroyed our past and my home. Originally, I thought that the god race could become the ruler of the mainland again, but I didn't expect to meet such a strong enemy like Lin General. Lin Muyu smiled, the demon race was indeed unstoppable. If it wasn't for Xiling developing the magic crystal cannon, I'm afraid you would have won. Marshal Qianfeng, have you forgotten that you said you would marry Xiao Yin after defeating the Empire? Qianfeng's face turned red. I was really stupid and frivolous at that time. Please don't take it to heart, Your Highness Yin. Qin Yin smiled gracefully. Marshal Qianfeng, you don't have to worry about it. I've already forgotten about it. There is only one person in Xiao Yin's heart, and there is only one person Xiao Yin wants to marry. That is my brother Yu. Her voice was soft, but it was very powerful. Lin Muyu held her little hand and said, Marry, marry, marry. When I return to my hometown and bring you to see my father, I will marry you. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her quietly. Although Lin Muyu was drunk, she was not completely drunk. She hurriedly said, and Xiao Shi, marry them together. Tang Xiaoxi's cloudy mood turned into a sunny one. Lin Muyu didn't dare to be careless again. Last time, the two goddess-like beauties got jealous and pierced through half of the sky of the empire. That was why there were 5 years of 3 kings' rule. This time, she must handle it well. Qianfeng sat at the side enviously and continued to drink. But he was afraid that when the wine entered his heart, it would only make him more depressed. In one's life, there will always be obstacles. Some people can get over it, but some people can't get over it for the rest of their lives. But if you get over it, why do you have to get over it? It's better to have someone living in your heart than to be alone. Chapter 960. In the blink of an eye, December arrived. The weather was getting colder and colder. Most of the 12 provinces in the Shattered Cauldron realm were covered in heavy snow. The celestial pole continent, which was connected to the Shattered Cauldron realm, was also covered in heavy snow. Shiping City was one of the famous cities of the Tianji Empire. It was rich in resources and had a sturdy city. However, Shiping City seemed to be empty at the moment. All the guards had been transferred away, leaving behind only a group of old and weak soldiers. Even the soldiers guarding the city gates were old men wrapped in cotton clothes. At a glance, one could tell that they were at least 50 years old. If they were in the Shattered Cauldron realm, such people would have long retired. Amidst the curtain of snow, 3 silhouettes meandered over. The man walking in front was wearing a black cloak, but the hood of the cloak had already been flipped down. His handsome short hair was covered with a lot of snow, and under his sword-like eyebrows, his eyes shone with a penetrating light. That was not a gaze that was harmless to humans and animals, but a gaze of wisdom that could see through everything in the world. Behind the young man were 2 women dressed in civilian clothes. Although they were simple and plain, they couldn't hide their stunning beauty. When the 3 of them arrived at the city gates, several seasoned guards couldn't help but take a few more glances at them. Kid, where are you going? A seasoned soldier walked forward with a saber in his hand. He looked up and saw the hilt of a sword protruding from the back of Lin Muyu's cloak. It was obviously a sword, and a good one at that. Lin Muyu said respectfully, Sir, I come from Bailey County in the south. I came to Shiping City to visit my relatives. My father is an accountant in this city's Chamber of Commerce. Oh, what Chamber of Commerce? The seasoned soldier asked. Lin Muyu answered without hesitation, the Pingjin Chamber of Commerce. Fortunately, they had made thorough preparations before they came. Oh. The Pingjin Chamber of Commerce isn't a small chamber of commerce. Your father must be a well-known figure in the city. The seasoned soldier glanced at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi behind Lin Muyu and asked, What about these 2? Lin Muyu was about to say that they were 2 concubines, but unexpectedly, Tang Xiaoxi smiled and answered, We are his cousins. Oh. The veteran carefully looked at Qin Yin's stunning appearance. Although her head was covered by a cloak, she was still stunning. The veteran frowned and said, Why are her eyes closed? Lin Muyu hurriedly explained, My cousin suffered from an eye disease 2 years ago, and she can't open her eyes anymore. So this time, I came to find my father to ask for a coin to treat my cousin's eye disease. When her eye disease is cured, we can get married. The veteran couldn't help but laugh. Young man, you're so lucky. These two cousins are both stunning beauties. It really makes one jealous. Go in, go in. Be careful, the Empire is at war. Recently, there have been many bandits harassing the people around Sheeping City. After you get the money, hire a few people from the dojo before you go back. Yes, thank you for your concern, sir. Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's hand and led her and Tang Xiaoxi into the city. They passed through safely. It seemed that the security in Sheeping City was no longer as strict as before. It was no wonder that the Tianji Empire was at war. They had used almost all of their power to fight the Celestial Empire in East Kham province. The security in Sheeping City was definitely not as good as before. After entering the city, they asked around and found out that Si Kongyao's army had not arrived yet. However, it seemed that the outpost had already reached Sheeping City in the morning. It was unknown when Si Kongyao and Lu Bai would arrive. It was Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's first time in a foreign land, so they were very curious. It was already dark when they checked into the inn. Lin Muyu borrowed 2 umbrellas and brought the 2 cousins to enjoy the night view of Sheeping City. Sheeping City was rich and prosperous. After nightfall, it became even more prosperous. Although it was snowing heavily, red lanterns were lit in front of the shops. Restaurants, brothels, casinos, chambers of commerce, and gold shops were all open for business. There were many restaurants. Their noses were filled with the aroma of wine and food. It was hard to resist. Lin Muyu held an umbrella for Qin Yin. She put her arm around her shoulder and walked in the snow with her. She said, "We've been flying for 2 days and stayed on the island in the East Sea for a long time. We haven't had a good meal yet. Why don't we rush to enjoy the night view? Let's fill our stomachs first. I think the restaurants here are pretty good." Qin Yin nodded and smiled. I'll listen to brother you. Tang Xiaoxi pointed to a nearby restaurant with a red signboard. There's a restaurant called 1,000 Fragrances. Why don't we go there? That's a brothel, not a restaurant. Doesn't the name have the word fragrant? Yes, that's why it's a brothel. Tang Xiaoxi could not help but blush. Why would I think of that? Lin Muyu held back her laughter. Let's go to the restaurant opposite 1,000 Fragrances. After they entered the restaurant, the waiter immediately welcomed them. He took the umbrella and smiled enthusiastically. Young master, ladies, would you like to eat and drink? Please arrange a table with a good view. Sorry for the trouble. Alright, please follow me. Upstairs, the table was located on the side of the street. What was rare was that the window was carved out of crystal. It was as transparent as glass, allowing one to have a panoramic view of the street outside while maintaining the warmth inside. There were 2 heaters placed beside the table, which was very thoughtful. Lin Muyu glanced at the menu and was stunned. It was really expensive. A dish of stewed bear paw cost 120 gold coins. In the Celestial Pole, bears were not protected animals, so how could they be so expensive? It seemed like this place was the same as Shattered Cauldron Realm. After the war, inflation had caused gold to become less valuable. However, the Empress and Marshal of Shattered Cauldron Realm obviously did not lack money. They filled the table with dishes that they liked and then ate slowly. They were waiting for Si Kongyao and Lu Bai anyway, so there was no hurry. Lin Muyu warmed some wine and poured some for Qin Yin. Then, she picked some food for her. Qin Yin could not open her eyes, nor could she attract other people's attention. Therefore, Lin Muyu took very good care of her, almost making Tang Xiaoxi jealous. Some merchants and young masters who were eating at the side naturally looked over and were attracted by the beauty of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. It was very rare to see beauties of this level in the Celestial Pole continent. As they were eating, a young master wearing a golden brocade robe suddenly walked over. He waved the fan inlaid with purple crystals in his hand, and 2 servants immediately moved a chair over. After the young master sat down, his eyes kept staring at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. He felt that he liked both of them and felt very uncomfortable. What are you doing? Lin Muyu suddenly looked at him and felt that it was a little troublesome to have another person at the table. The young master said, I am happy to sit here. What can you do to me? Lin Muyu frowned. Are you looking for trouble? The young master laughed loudly. That's right, I am looking for trouble. What can you do to me? Lin Muyu used her chopsticks to pick up a piece of pork rib and carefully placed it on Qin Yin's plate. She said gently, eat more. Qin Yin smiled and nodded. Okay. The young master could no longer stand Lin Muyu's indifference. He stood up and said, Brat, are you blind? Can't you see that I am here? So what? Lin Muyu said plainly. The young master slammed his fan on the table and said, Forgive me for being blunt, but you are not fit to sit with these two ladies. If you know what's good for you, get out of here. I will treat them to this meal. She had seen too many people like this in this plane. Lin Muyu said, If I am not wrong, this young master is the son or grandson of the city lord or governor of Sheeping City? Otherwise, he would not be so arrogant. The young master's face was cold. What nonsense are you spouting? I am Jing Nan, the nephew of the governor of Sheeping City, Jing Shou. Brat, you are so arrogant. Do you know that half of the 3,000 soldiers guarding Sheeping City are my men? I don't know. I am not interested in you. Get out of here, Lin Muyu said plainly. How dare you? Jing Nan was furious. He grabbed his fan and whipped it at Lin Muyu's face. This fan was made of metal. Once it hit, it would definitely leave a scar. Jing Nan felt that his looks were not bad, but compared to the brat in front of him, he was much softer. In a moment of jealousy, he only wanted to smash Lin Muyu's face before anything else. Pung! Before the fan could even touch Lin Muyu's face, it was bounced off. A golden light flashed. It was the god's wall. Jing Nan immediately bled from the impact. His face was ashen as he retreated. He shouted, This brat is a tough nut to crack. Attack him together and kill him. I will take responsibility for any trouble. Immediately, the 7 or 8 people who had been eating stood up, drew their weapons and rushed over. It seemed that they were Jing Nan's guards. I did not expect this group of ruffians to disrupt our meal. Lin Muyu frowned. Tang Xiaoxi lowered her head and desperately ate a bare paw. She raised her head and stared at Lin Muyu with her bright eyes. Obviously, she was saying that this group of ruffians did not affect her mood to eat. Lin Muyu smiled helplessly. Xiao Shi, this foodie, really could not do anything about her. Qin Yin, who was at the side, whispered, Brother Yu, we agreed to secretly assist Si Kong Yao this time. So don't kill them. Just teach them a lesson. Lin Muyu stood up and grabbed the Shen Yuan sword. Without unsheathing it, her figure flashed past. The hilt of the sword heavily hit the abdomen of a guard, sending him flying. Then, she lifted her foot and kicked another guard. Her movements were smooth and smooth. Within 5 seconds, the group of people were all lying on the ground begging for mercy. Lin Muyu did not even use her supreme divine power or Do Qi. She only used her strong physique to deal with this group of mortals. Just you wait. Jing Nan's face was swollen, but his eyes were full of resentment. Don't leave if you have the guts. Wait for me to call for reinforcements. Stop. Lin Muyu said coldly. What do you want? Didn't you say that you want to treat these two ladies to a meal? Waiter, this young master Jing Nan wants to pay for us. You know what to do. The waiter looked at Jing Nan blankly. Jing Nan gritted his teeth. Put it on my bill. Lin Muyu returned to her seat. It felt good to have someone paying the bill. She picked up the stewed bear paw soup and took a sip. She couldn't help but be in a good mood. Wow, it smells so good, Chin chuckled and closed her eyes. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. Brother Yu, Si Kongyao, and the others are here. On the street, under the illumination of red lanterns, a group of soldiers slowly entered Shiping City. Everyone had the same emblem on their arms. That was the image of the divine beast by Zhe. The girl riding a tall horse at the front was none other than Si Kongyao. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.